Good morning, Carl.
Good afternoon, sir. It is good morning, actually. Oh, never mind. Good morning.
It's still morning.
Still morning.
We're not talking to Dubai
No, we're not.
or Saudi Aramco or.
This is true. This is true. How you been?
Good. It's been a busy time trying to hire people.
Ugh. As in, you got good applicants, or
Yeah, we got good applicants, but now it's a different world out there, and when you're looking for people, and a new request came in. I made job offers on Friday, and then a request came this morning from one of the guys that I made a job offer to. So that's what I was just doing just before I popped on here. So just getting ready to click, and somebody walks in my office. He says, "Hey, I've been talking to this one recruit, and I got a couple things I want to run by you." So,
gotcha.
But I think we can work it out.
So. Well, that's good. I talked to Wayne Carter this weekend to do the initial planning feelers.
Oh yes, I already have that on my calendar. Oh, you froze.
Did I?
Yep. Now you're back.
And I'm waiting for Katie to get on so I can pass her over to be a host, because my computer, just before I cranked this up, froze and shut off.
Oh.
And I'm like, okay, we don't need this today. So.
Great. Did Keating reply back? Is he pretty confident that he'll be on today?
I do not know if he's going to be on. Right now I'm looking at 6 of you.
Yeah.
And I doubt Jake is going to be able to get on, because I think today is the funeral for Jeff.
Okay.
So, or at least the wake is, and the funeral's tomorrow. So I'm not really sure the whole dynamics and everything else. So there's a lot of movement, let's say.
Yeah.
I'm praying that everybody shows that has not sent me a message.
Well, there's Bradley.
Hey, also, just to let you know, Gary West will not be on as team leader for Garner.
Yeah.
Because he's helping with Jeff's stuff and helping his wife Donna, because they're close friends and they live across the street from one another. So Chief Kostrika from Charleston is going to fill in.
Okay.
And this would be her first crack at filling in. So I've already talked to her. Steve Olson has coached her as well, and Gary has helped too. It's not to say that, it's just she rookie in the seat, and hopefully things will go as they always do. I have no worries.
No, I don't either. It'll all work its way out. Which agency did they have again?
Garner Fire Rescue, number 2.
Okay, yeah. Yep.
Yeah.
So Wayne Carter's all ready to go golfing in January?
He is. He's ready to go. Wes is ready to go, and Bobby and Mike as well. So he's going to check on Bobby. Bobby's the wild card out of their foursome. Sure. So we'll see how that goes. I'll probably get with you on September's events. Have you booked travel yet?
I have. Yep.
You have?
Yep.
Okay. And you're arriving when?
That's a good question. I'm thinking I'm getting out of here pretty early on Friday. I can tell you.
I think you were before noon, if I remember the conversation.
I think so. I arrive at 11:43.
11:43. Okay. There are some really bad flight options for me lately. I'm toying with either flying in Thursday night late or Friday morning, depending on what I can get. So we'll see.
Yeah. And is it going to be just you and I and Jake on Saturday? Is
Yeah.
that the plan right now?
Yeah, Jake's not going to be able to get in till late on Friday, so he probably won't be able to play. I'm looking to get in before 12 o'clock or right around between 11 and 1. So we'll see how all that translates to. Once I get it set, we can figure out what our tea time is going to be.
Yeah, we can do that. And I can hang out, or you can hang out at the airport, whoever gets there first, and Uber over there together.
Yeah. The only thing I got to do on Sunday after we get done playing golf, or somewhere Sunday, Monday, and depending on I need to get to a FedEx. I'm going to ship my golf clubs home because I'm leaving from Orlando and flying straight to Asheville.
Oh,
to Barbara and I are taking a few days and going checking out another location for things.
there you go. Yeah, I've got trying to coordinate from a distance, trying to get my air conditioner fixed at the lake.
Oh,
It's difficult to have a lake house.
Yes, it is. It is. Well, I actually we're letting some friends stay there this week, and they texted last night at about 10 o'clock. Hey, the house isn't cooling off. And it took all night until 7 o'clock this morning for it to even come down 4 degrees.
We call that the diurnal effect. It has nothing to do with your air conditioners, Chief.
just to do
Hey, Carl, how's the air conditioner at your lake house?
It was awesome. Matter of fact, this weekend at the lake house I was at, the air conditioning left us as well on Friday night, although it wasn't that hot. The $10 piece costed $400 by the time he got done for a Saturday morning rendezvous.
Well, the good news is I don't have to worry about the air conditioner at my lake house. I don't have a lake house.
That's true.
Oh, I'm just watching my air conditioning guy drive away. So
Is he angry?
no.
Oh, okay.
He ain't speeding away like he's. I can't say that. I won't say that on it because we're on YouTube. I'll be a nice guy.
I think it's pronounced the YouTubes.
Huh.
All right. My command post is set up. I am ready to run.
Let's see if it's already cooling off in there. Technology is wonderful.
I put in a whole house fan last week at my home because I didn't have enough contractors working in my home already. So I thought I'd invite another one. But what a difference that makes.
Are you making sure that whatever gets out of the bathroom is vented properly?
I'm removing heated air from my attic.
Oh, and what elevation are you at?
I'm in the suburbs at about 6,800 feet.
Ah.
You should move up the mountain to Manitou.
Yeah, I'm not allowed to go to Manitou. They're stuck in the 70s, and I don't smoke weed, so.
There's Jim Keating.
I'm glad to see you on the call this morning, Carl.
Thank you. I'm glad to be here.
Yeah, book that workshop for our discussion.
Okay.
Yeah, Dave Farnham and I had a good meeting on Friday, getting ready for the symposium. So that was
cool.
Good.
Hey, Steve.
Morning, Chief.
Good morning, everyone, from smoky Calgary.
Yeah, can you quit sending that down this way?
Well, it's not ours. Well, I guess it's Canadian, if that's what you're saying. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's Canadian. Canadian smoke's the best in the world.
Hey, Katie.
Well, the people in Colorado might beg to differ on that one.
Yeah, I bet. I'm sure. Yeah, it's been ugly here at the weekend.
I would imagine.
Yeah, we've actually been you can physically see the smoke in Fargo from the Canadian fires. It's unbelievable.
You mean physically as in you can see like a misty haze?
Yep.
Oh, here at times you can't see any more than about half a mile.
Yeah.
Like right now, I'm looking at my office. I can probably see half or 3/4 of a mile, and I can normally see the mountains like 80 miles away. So
I'm confused with that measurement. Can you tell me that in kilometers, please?
sure, it would probably be about 3/4 of a kilometer or 130 kilometers to Banff, to the mountains. Sorry.
Hey, Katie,
Smartass.
are you hearing me?
What?
Yes, I can hear you.
Hey, a couple things. One is, now that I made you co-host, if my computer crashes, does that affect everything?
No, it'll be fine.
So you'll be able to continue on. I say that because it just crashed about 15 minutes prior to me going live. And I'm like, today's Monday.
As long as I'm co-host, it should be fine.
Okay, super. Steve North, just for, I already told South this and for the other commissioners on here, Gary West is not going to represent Garner today because of Jeff Pachura's funeral and arrangements. So Marlene Konstrika is going to do that. She's assistant chief or deputy chief out of Charleston, South Carolina. So she's going to represent, and this is her first time. So Steve Olson has coached her along very well this weekend, and I talked to her a few minutes ago. She feels good, but just wanted to let you know.
Yeah, actually, I got an email from Cindy yesterday, and I'd made a change to my notes. I didn't print out the new one because I'm assuming that's the only thing that changed. But I've got that. But thank you for. It's always good because I don't always get to all of my emails, so I appreciate that.
Hey, Brad, that question you had, did it answer to the point that the agency's not going to get a question on it, or how'd that go for you?
Yeah, I got my answer, and no, I don't need to ask the agency anything.
Okay, super.
I'm good.
Super. I just wanted to make sure you had all cleared up. I figured it did by the way he explained it. It all made sense.
Yep. Thanks, Carl.
Yep.
Chief Dongworth, anything new on travel restrictions? Are we going to see you in September?
Nothing, although there's supposed to be an announcement from the federal government this afternoon. So, which they haven't given much away. So I don't know.
Okay.
Interestingly enough, my sister and I were chatting last night. She lives in Fresno, California, and she was saying that she'd heard that Americans weren't going to be able to come to Canada until at least the middle of August. So I just don't know. I mean, we'd heard initially that the border might open somewhat on the 21st, which is, of course, Wednesday, I think. So I'm confused, and I'll wait and hear what the feds announce. I'm hopeful. There's also the Fallen Firefighters Memorial in Colorado Springs, which is before the meetings in Florida. That we've got like 6 families going down to that, and I'm hoping I can get to that as well. So it's very forward in my mind, but I'm, it's just waiting to see what the governments do.
Makes sense.
I know there's huge pressure here from the tourism industry, who have that short season of the summer to get the border open for Americans to come and spend money in Canada. And of course, much though I hate to suggest that may be a big driver in terms of what happens here, I suspect it's not such a big a deal for the US having Canadians come and spend money there, given the relative size of the two countries. But I think something's obviously going to change today, and it'll be, also it'll be about what does it look like when you come back, in terms of isolation and testing and those kind of things. So I'm all ears.
Yeah, that's an interesting dynamic for sure. With Americans being able to travel to Europe now, folks from the United States being able to travel to Europe, coming back, we still have to do the PCR testing. So,
Yeah.
Chief Butler just sent me a message, says he won't be until 12:15. We just need one more to have a quorum.
I can turn my camera off and be Chief Ford and ask a lot of questions if you like.
Nobody can replace Chief Ford.
But if anyone can,
you'd
it
have
will be
to
Ernst.
you'd have to twitch and move around in your chair, and it's like Tommy before he get back and forth. It's like Tommy in over his years of before he got to the question, he talked around everything and then got to the question. You learn the nuances, right?
Right.
I think Cindy's having some problems getting on. I've admitted her about 5 times and hasn't been able to access. Chief Keating, my condolences again on the loss of your chief officer.
Yeah.
Thank you. Appreciate that. Kind of lucked out the funeral is tomorrow, so I was able to make it today.
Well, greatly appreciated knowing what you guys got going on. Chief Butler is here.
Carl, do you know who's logged in under the CFAI Zoom?
It would have to be Cindy. All right. We got 6 commissioners. We are 6 strong. Love it.
One more and we'd be the Magnificent 7.
There you go. Chief Butler, how is life in Fairfax County today?
What time is it? So far, so good.
That's good.
It's only noon. Still early.
That's true.
All is well.
The August hearings will be extremely less than today's hearings, just as an FYI. So I know we're scheduled for 4 hours, but we only have, I think, 4 or 5 agencies left in this cycle. So that's all it will be in front of you at that point. In case you want to leave your calendar blocked for other reasons, and then if it all goes the way I expect it to be, you're golden for a couple hours.
Some catch-up time is always good. Surprise catch-up time is always even better.
Yeah.
All right, we ready?
Yeah, we have enough commissioners, and it is 12 o'clock, so let's make this work.
Let's rock and roll.
Oh, everyone's getting connected.
Awesome. Chief Lancer, are you there?
Good morning. Well, good morning from the West Coast anyway.
Yeah, absolutely. Hey, congratulations on the newly announced retirement.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
And
That's why that smile is broad on his face.
And the mustache is getting longer, I'm thinking.
Yeah.
It does. It just, it's like from one day to the next, it got longer.
That's awesome.
I'll still be
And-
working in the fire service, just in a different capacity.
Good for you.
Yeah.
Good morning, New Bern, or good afternoon. You guys are on the East Coast, so it's good afternoon now.
Afternoon to you.
Hear us okay?
Yes.
All right. Chief Dongworth, it's all yours.
Thanks, Carl. I appreciate that. Welcome, everyone, to the July virtual hearings of the Commission on Fire Accreditation International. We have a few agencies today, and but before we start, though, I'd just like to do a couple of things of housekeeping. First of all, as always, we want to thank all of the volunteers that make CFAI work, from the folks on the peer teams, to technical reviewers, to the commissioners that are gathered around the virtual table today. That all equates to literally thousands of hours of volunteer commitment. And as I say, without that, this model wouldn't function, I would suggest. So I can't tell you how much I appreciate the work that everyone puts into this. The second is, as we've done recently, these hearings are being cast as well as recorded on YouTube. So you can either have your folks join along today and watch along, I guess, or go back in and take a look after the fact. With that said and done, we'll get cracking here. And first agency, New Bern, from North Carolina, first accreditation. So without further ado, I'm going to hand over to Chief Lancer, team lead, to introduce the agency.
Good morning, sir. Thank you. Good day. My name is David Lancer, and I have the privilege to serve as the team leader for New Bern Fire Rescue Department in North Carolina. Before proceeding, I would like to recognize the peer assessment team I worked with. Mike Chandler from Columbus Fire Rescue out of Mississippi, Dustin McDonald from Springdale Fire Department, Arkansas, and Joshua Steen from F.E. Warren Air Force Base, Wyoming. I'd also like to throw out my appreciation to Bill Stark for his guidance during the technical review process. I bounced some questions off of him, and he was very helpful to help me hone in further the skills of writing these reports. So we're always learning, continuous quality improvement, right? I would also like to thank Fire Chief Robert Boyd and Battalion Chief Accreditation Manager Dennis Tyndall and the entire New Bern team for their hospitality, professionalism, and transparency through this entire process. The agency was very accommodating and forthcoming in answering our multitude of questions. I applaud their commitment to this process. The peer team visited New Bern in May of this year and encountered the fire department with widespread support. There were a number of city management and Board of Aldermen present at the opening session, which was emblematic of the support that this agency receives. The agency's members are as dedicated a group as I've had the pleasure to visit. They do whatever it takes, even if that means dressing up as a clown, and they may explain that further during your Q&A. The peer assessment team observed a strong commitment by the agency to the accreditation process and to ensuring appropriate succession training for the accreditation manager. They already have their next two accreditation managers selected, so they are ready for the future. During document review and while on site, the agency demonstrated that its self-assessment, community risk assessment standards of cover, and strategic plan meet all core competencies and criteria. Thus, the peer assessment team respectfully recommends accredited agency status to the commission for the New Bern Fire Rescue Department. That's all of my comments, Chairman, and I would suppose I pass it on to the fire chief if you so desire.
Yes, please. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Chief Lancer, for the great introduction and for assisting us as a team leader. On behalf of New Bern Fire Rescue Department, we want to extend a thank you to the commission, peer assessors, the North Carolina Accreditation Consortium, and our mentor, White Graham. We appreciated the assessors taking time from their busy schedules and family to assist us in this great endeavor. Thank you to all the fire department personnel, especially Chief Tyndall and his crew that worked diligently to get us here today. This would not be possible without their assistance. Last but not least, I want to thank the mayor, board alderman, and city manager for supporting this process over the last 4 to 5 years. This process has been both difficult and rewarding, and I have learned wholeheartedly that anything worth having will be challenging. The New Bern Fire Department was chartered in 1845 and is one of the oldest departments in North Carolina. The current New Bern Fire Rescue, though today as we operate, is relatively new. And in 2000, we appointed our first career chief, created a 4-person company, obtained heavy rescue status, and provided first responder medical care to echo type calls. I've been asked many times why we need to seek accreditation. My scripted answer was always been opportunities to improve. But recently, however, as we approached the final stages, I had a realization there is much deeper reason. Many times leaders are reluctant to have outsiders evaluate their organization. We tend to build hedges of protection around us thinking we're doing fine. In reality, however, we will not improve or grow as leaders if we do not break down those hedges and allow a diverse group of individuals to evaluate us without any type of bias. The willingness to open our department to outside scrutiny indicates a genuine commitment to excellence and yearning for continued improvement. Accreditation provides us an opportunity to take an in-depth look at our organization and its operations utilizing a standardized approach. This can be difficult but needed. If we are going to provide the most effective service possible to our community, and in order to identify our inefficiencies, we have to put away our pride and humble ourselves. After a long and rewarding journey, we're in the final stages of seeing our hard work coming into fruition. Unless you know your destination, it is difficult to successfully plot a course forward. The accreditation process has assisted us to set a course for the coming years. Again, we appreciate the many hours everyone has graciously given to the process. We already see ourselves as being successful through the evaluation process and grown by leaps and bounds, thus providing a better service to our community. And as with any journey, a good roadmap is essential. The overall process and recommendations from the peer assessment team have provided us a clear purpose, knowing we have every method available towards improvement. We have already completed some of the recommendations and we're working to complete the remaining ones in the near future. We can honestly say that the accreditation process has increased transparency, brought credibility to the department, and improved the stability of our service. With that being said, I'd like to introduce the panel. To my left, your right, is our interim city manager, Frosty Hughes. To my right, your left, is our battalion chief, our accreditation manager, Dennis Tyndall. Beside him is our assistant accreditation manager, Captain Stephen Jerome. And to our far left, your far right, is our training division chief, Jim McConnell. We also have in attendance our mayor. And if any, Foster, would you like to say anything this time?
I'd just like to say that we're proud of the New Bern Fire Rescue Department for the undertaking they have gone for this accreditation. Upon favorable review, they would be the third department that would receive accreditation. The New Bern Police Department received that a few years ago, and Parks and Recreation is also. So we know that it's a commitment to maintain accreditation, and the city certainly supports the fire department in this effort.
Mayor, would you like to say anything? Good. That's for us, Commissioner.
Thanks very much. And first of all, I'd like to thank the city manager and mayor for taking the time to be with us here today. That level of support from the administrative wing of the community as well as the political wing is always appreciated. So that's great to see. So we'll open up for questions right away here. Chief Dirksen, I believe you're first.
Good afternoon. New Bern, congratulations for getting to this point and going through the process. I know it's a long process as you endeavor through this and struggle through writing all the performance indicators and all those things. So congratulations and thanks for the work on getting to this point. I've got a couple of questions related to your communication center. First of all, can you tell me what level of oversight that you as the fire department have into the operation and management of that?
Yes, we have a great partnership. Actually, the communication center works underneath the police department. We actually the city just hired a new police chief and we have a great relationship. We have met several times. And actually several on our staff have been meeting with their staff on trying to put things together and improve.
Okay, and then in regards to core competency 2D1, working on the alarm handling times, you had mentioned in your comments that you've worked through a couple of, you've already worked through a few of the recommendations. Is this one of them, or what is your process to improve that?
I'll defer that to my accreditation manager because he worked directly on that.
Yes, sir. We actually reached out to our communication center before we ever started the document review section. We recognized in 2020 that some of our call handling times were off the charts. So we reached out to the North Carolina Support Consortium as well, asking them how they handled the EFD. We brought that back to the table with our communications supervisor and worked out a plan. We just completed a pilot program in May and June to see how that plan would work. From 2020, it cut our call handling time from approximately 6 minutes down to about 2.5 minutes during our pilot program.
Okay, so is there a plan then that will continue, or is it going to be implemented going forward, or is there going to be changes made?
Yes, sir. We are planning on meeting again with our supervisors in the next couple of weeks to go ahead and see if there's any tweaks that need to be made to the pilot plan we ran and go ahead and implement that.
Are there any standards that you're referencing in that?
We are referencing NFPA 1221 to make sure our times are right.
Perfect. Sorry for all the questions, but thank you.
Thanks, Chief Dirksen. Chief Keating, I believe you're next.
Thank you and congratulations for taking the big step of attempting accreditation and this being your first time around. I realize how much work that is, and looking at your report, it seems to be done very well. Something that comes to mind in reading a little bit about your department here, specifically there was a recommendation under EMS that you come up with a more formal program, and looking at your resources, it would appear that regarding EMS, you have quite a bit to offer. Is there a plan moving forward to be able to implement rather than implement more into the EMS system, rather than waiting for the EMS transport service to call for assistance, like responding to the scene and being able to provide some at-scene quick, basically BLS, to provide a little bit more continuity and EMS service to your community? Is there anything specifically standing in the way from you doing that?
Right now, EMS is primarily ran by our local hospital, which is right in the center of the city. But we saw the need a few years ago that we needed to assist with that because of the location of our fire station. So we went from being a medical responder to a EMT basic treatment as a non-transport. So we do respond to echo type calls and Delta upon request. And there are plans into place in the future, but right now we have an EMS committee together and we're working diligently to create policies and create better training for our personnel. And the committee has been asked to research the implementation of a formal program in the near future.
I'm very glad to hear that, because you seem to have quite a bit to offer to your community. And so congratulations on that. I hope it moves forward. Thank you.
Thanks, Chief Keating. Actually, I have one, and then we'll go back to Chief Dirksen. I see it's not a critical competency in the report, but there's a recommendation around diesel exhaust in your facilities. I'm wondering what kind of actions you're going to pursue there.
Actually, we've already made some movements toward that. All of our buildings right now have exhaust systems. So we have Public Works come in and put them on an automatic timer. So when we start the apparatus, the exhaust system starts pulling out, and we're looking into our capital budget in the future of going even further with the actual diesel exhaust systems.
Okay, so in the future, you're going to try and get the ones that capture at source at the tailpipe kind of thing?
Yes, sir. As whether it's through grant or some type of capital plan, but right now we do have exhaust fans that have been put onto a timer by our Public Works that would turn on automatically and then turn off after the timer.
Yeah. Well, good to hear. I would just I'd hope you pursue that fairly aggressively, because we all know now the risks of all the risks of cancer to firefighters, and one of those is identified to be potentially diesel exhaust fumes. So thank you for that. Chief Dirksen, you have a question, I think.
Yes, yeah, I do. Again, this is a question, there's not a recommendation directly towards it, but it's related to 5C. The report calls out that you've acquired a canine unit and it led to 5 arrests. I'm guessing those will be arson arrests. Just curious if you've had any convictions based off of that and having that dog available.
To be honest with you, I don't know the exact results. I know that we have had 5 arrests, and I know at least 1 out of that, because typically the police department, handles after a certain point, and they handle the investigations. We are part of that team, but they do take care of all that. But we have had 1 conviction that I know of, and at least 4 other arrests.
I believe that would be one of those good metrics to gather and take into place when you're working on your appraisal of that category, since that's one of your recommendations, is that would be one of those outcomes that kind of shows that benefit. A canine program can be rather costly, and to make sure that that's available and continue to be supported, I would measure that in future outcomes.
Thank you for the recommendation.
Thank you. I have one final question, I think, and it's around your, there's a recommendation. I'm just trying to capture the number here. Please bear with me. Number 6, which is recommending that the agency update its ICS system policy and provide training on the new policy. Can you tell me what your plans are to address that recommendation?
Yeah, I'll defer that to the accreditation manager. He's actually in charge of our SOP committee.
So through the site visit we did, it was brought to our attention how outdated our ICS policy was. Chief immediately assigned that to the SOP committee, and we are currently working on the update and hope to have that in effect within the next 2 months.
And how about the training that's associated with that? So I'm imagining it's a fairly significant time that it hasn't been updated. There's probably some things you need to train your people on.
We will immediately in the fall, once the policy is completed, we will immediately in the fall schedule for our training department to go over that policy and make sure everyone is trained in it. We do currently offer remedial training or continuing education in NIMS and ICS. However, we feel like our policy needs to be revised and reviewed to represent that.
Thank you. Okay, I'm not seeing any further questions from commission. Can I get a motion to approve?
Move to approve, Dirksen.
Thanks, Steve. Motion to second.
Keating, second.
Jim, thank you. Chief Keating. Actually, I've got a follow-up question. So let's take Chief Butler's question, and then we'll go to a vote on the motion. Chief Butler.
Yes, good morning, good afternoon. My question kind of goes back to the diesel exhaust and carcinogen efforts. Would retrofitting or installing such systems be considered a long-term project, as noted in the so the citywide comprehensive, the citywide CIP, would an exhaust system qualify or be defined as a large capital improvement plan project?
Yes, like we said, short term, we realized the situation. That's why we got Public Works come in and get the exhaust fans working. We understood that was a Band-Aid. So we will, in our next budget presentation, we'll be presenting into our capital improvement plan the cost for that. Hopefully we'll search for grants and whatever other ways we can pay for it.
Okay. All right, that's good enough. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Chief Butler. So we have a motion on the floor. Any further discussion before we go to a vote? Not seeing or hearing any. Any opposed? Not hearing any. Congratulations, New Bern, on your first accreditation. Well done.
Thank you very much to everyone that helped with this, and we're very excited. And we know this is a progress that's continuing on, and we're going to continue on with moving forward with it.
Great to hear, and we'll make the arrangements to get your plaque to you in North Carolina, since we don't seem to be able to meet these days. But hope one day maybe. Take care.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, next up is Garner Fire Rescue, North Carolina. Got a bunch of them from North Carolina today. Hi, Chief. We got no way to do plaque presentations at FRI, so
Yep.
We're not going to be able to do that.
No, going to ship them out, right?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
All right, I think they're both in and connecting.
Garner Fire Rescue, you guys all set to go?
Yes, sir, we are.
It looks like your video is showing a fast forward of a recording, just to let you know.
Okay, thank you.
Hey, Chief, how you doing?
Good, sir. How are you doing?
Good. Hey, y'all slowed down. It looks good.
Here we are. Okay.
Marlene, you good to go?
I am.
Awesome. Thank you so much for filling in. I know, as I said earlier, getting thrown under the bus at the last moment to present. I know you'll do a great job. Chief Dongworth, it's all yours.
Thanks very much, Carl. Appreciate that. So next agency, Garner Fire Rescue, again from North Carolina, again, first time accreditation. So we're going to hand over straight away here to Marlene Kostrajka. I hope I have pronounced your name correctly, who's standing in again, as we've just heard. Please take it away with your introductions, Marlene.
Awesome. Thank you. Good afternoon. Good morning, Chairman and members of the Commission. I am Marlene Kostrajka. I'm the Assistant Chief of Planning and Administration with the Charleston Fire Department. It's my pleasure to present the Garner Fire and Rescue in North Carolina for your consideration for accredited status. Team leader Gary West is unable to be here today due to the recent line of duty death of Jeff Pachura, a former member of CPSE Board of Directors and the Chief of Northwest Fire District. Gary had worked with him for more than 20 years and is part of the memorial service. Besides Gary and myself, the team was comprised of Chief Mike Bailey of the Snoqualmie Fire Department in Washington and Assistant Chief Jason Hollins of Thornton Fire Department in Colorado. We were able to have several Zoom meetings with the agencies prior to the visit, which enabled us to have a very productive outcome. I want to thank the members of the peer assessment team for their dedication and the many hours of hard work. Their efforts before and during the site visit were extraordinary. I also want to thank Chief Matthew Poole and the accreditation manager, Jason Haycock. Throughout the entire process, they were very responsive to the peer team questions and suggestions. In particular, Jason's work was stellar and was much appreciated by the team prior to and during the visit. Garner service is experiencing strong growth and is using the accreditation model to plan for the associated increase in service demand. They have begun work on several of the report's recommendations, including improving the dispatch process at the Regional Communications Center. Their commitment to the process leading up to our visit and moving forward was very evident to the team. A best practice the team identified is the outstanding annual report that they produce. It provides a performance measure report card for their community that is both well-designed and delivers a wide range of information that is palatable in a palatable format. The team developed 8 strategic and 13 specific recommendations. As mentioned, the agency has already begun work on several of the team recommendations. On behalf of the Garner Peer Assessment Team, we're pleased to recommend Garner Fire Rescue for accreditation. I will now turn the mic over to Chief Poole.
Thank you, Marlene. I'd like to first off thank the commission for allowing us the opportunity to be here today, as well as our site team that came out and evaluated the department. They acted in a professional manner, and we are truly better off for them have come into our department. I'd like to first introduce our accreditation team. To my right is Jason Hathcock, who is our Assistant Chief and Accreditation Manager. To his right is our Deputy Fire Chief over Operations, Tim Herman. And to his right is Donnie Lindsay, our other Assistant Chief. To my left, we have some stakeholders here with us today, is our Mayor, Ken Marshburn. To his left is our Town Manager, Rodney Dickerson. And to his left is the Vice President of our Board of Directors, Joe Sample. We also have an amazing audience with us today. Also in the audience is Town Council Member Damian Dillinger and several of our Fire Department board members, Carl Williams, Johnny Foster, and Mark Wilson, as well as some people that have supported us along the way and our staff. So I would like to thank everybody that has come here today and for the opportunity to be here. At this time, I'll briefly turn it over to Mayor Marshburn just to make a brief comment from a stakeholder perspective.
Okay, and thank you so much, Chief Poole. Today is a good time for reflection, I think. And so I was thinking this morning when I moved to Garner over 30 years ago, I had a wife and 2 small children. And these 30 plus years later, I now still have my wife and I have 2 grandchildren. But it's pretty obvious that the town of Garner has changed dramatically over that period of time. To say that the town has sort of grown up, I think would be an understatement. And to say that our fire department has grown up and certainly met the challenge of a growing town, I commend Chief Poole and his predecessors, a person that I did not know that well. So it's a proud day for our town. We look forward to answering questions, and I'm confident that our fire department will certainly meet the test of accreditation. And again, my congratulations to the chief and all the accreditation team. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I wanted to briefly overview our path to accreditation. Our path began approximately 10 years ago. When I first became the fire chief, I was invited by a neighboring mentor, retired Fire Chief Alan Kane from the Cary Fire Department. He recommended I would attend an excellence conference to see what this accreditation model meant. And so I went and I watched some hearings and sat through some classes. I even saw Chief Keating's department, the Red, White, and Blue Fire Department, become accredited at that time. And I realized that we had a lot of improvements to make if we ever wanted to reach this goal. So honestly, our model started 10 years ago. We came back and developed our first ever strategic long range plan. We started to build a foundation that our accreditation model needed to be built on. And then we really ramped up about 5 years ago. And so it has been a long path for us. We have acquired an amazing accreditation manager with Chief Hathcock that has helped finish what we started. And so we're proud to be here today. We have completed 5 of the 21 recommendations as of now and plan on pursuing those others as well. So at this time, I would turn it over for any questions or comments.
Yeah, thanks very much for that. And great to see again, we've got a community where your administrative leaders, as well as your political leader, have come to the table to be part of this process, which is which is always great to see. So let's open up for questions. I think first we have Jesse Lytle. You have a question, Jesse, I think.
Yes, thank you. Congratulations on getting to this point in the process. And I just have a question for you about the growth that you're experiencing in your service area. One of the recommendations talked about developing, possibly some future plans for that growth. I wondered if as a unit, you have any comprehensive planning strategies that you're using just to maybe identify some of the different types of growth areas so that as a fire department what you're going to be faced with in the coming years.
Yes, ma'am. Great question. So we've begun to identify growth as much of the country is seeing as well. So approximately 6 years ago, we were made aware of a bypass from our local highway that will be coming through a rural part of our area. So we immediately identified that into future growth. And we have a 5th fire station that we've just now completed schematic design to try to get to that area. But since then, and through the improvement of our accreditation process, we created risk management zones that break down our fire districts much more thorough than what they did. And so we can look at growth in heat maps. We can see what it looks like visually. Also, through our process, I requested that we put a fire department representative on the town technical review committee and the county committee as well. And this way we begin to start have input on commercial buildings, subdivisions, and those, so we can forecast where these are going, as well as provide input into fire protection safety needs of those designs.
Excellent. Thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
Thanks, Jesse. I think we've got a question from Chief Keating next.
Okay, there we go. Congratulations, Chief. And 10 years ago, thanks for that sparring interest of attending the Excellence Conference. And matter of fact, if you come back, hopefully next year and visit us in Orlando, you'll see us going through again for our 3rd accreditation cycle. Obviously, a lot to be proud of in your community and your department. And looking at your report, you guys have done a lot. You've got a lot to offer. And while there's a number of recommendations, I'm absolutely positive that you're going to work through those, and the interest already of completing and looking at a number of them. My question deals with something that's on our minds right at the point today, and that is the health and safety of your workforce. And it would deal with a couple of recommendations. One, cancer prevention is really become a hot topic, especially with our organization. In the schematic design of our new fire station, the physical fitness facility is external from the Bay Area. So there is a large opening that will allow the firefighters to work out in that room, as well as the exterior of the building. The turnout gear storage for that facility will not be housed inside the bay of the fire station. It's an exterior room as well. As far as existing fire stations, we've implemented ventilation systems in all 4 of our stations over the past 4 years. Our town and our county government supported that. So we've made those facility repairs. We also are trying to abide by the Lavender Ribbon report. We have internal decontamination procedures as well. And so it is a serious topic for us. And then I think one more point, we have a county health and wellness committee, and we have 2 of our firefighters assigned to that committee to represent us on a county level in regards to health and wellness. excellent. Glad to hear the progress towards that. And I wish you a lot of luck in completing those in a timely fashion.
Thank you.
Thanks, Chief Keating. I think next we have Thomas Breyer. Are you ready to go, Thomas?
I am, sir. Thank you. Hi, Chief. How are you today?
I'm good, sir.
Good. I have a question. I see there's a recommendation here, and I'm just going to read it real quick, to develop an interactive method for members to receive information explaining the goals. I mean, receive and give information would be my ultimate hope there. What steps have you taken to create that? Or if you're thinking of it, what does that process look like?
Sure. I'd like to hit on that question, and then also give our accreditation manager an opportunity to answer from an RMS perspective. It was a recommendation that we make sure we are passing along the goals and visions and strategic plan of our organization to our staff. So we held an annual staff meeting at the beginning of this fiscal year, where I met with the staff in person and also recorded the meeting and sent it virtually, where we went over our goals and objectives and strategic long range plan. So from a personal standpoint, that's one task that we've completed, and I would turn it over to our accreditation manager that can talk about some maybe potentials of our new RMS system, passing information along to our staff.
Yeah, so I'd like to add to what Chief Poole mentioned. We are currently exploring software applications that will allow us the ability to not only just send out information, but to acknowledge who has actually received it. We're currently exploring that now with different records management systems, but also supplemental applications, and that would be in line with policies, procedures, guidelines. We share those things now and we put them out via email. We have an intranet that each employee has access to at any time, but we really don't have any current method for evaluating who has actually read and understood those goals, objectives, policies, and procedures. So that work is currently underway, and we should have a solution in place by end of year.
So just for clarification, interactive means just a way to check the box that somebody opened your email and read it. Is that what I'm understanding from y'all?
So I'll speak for Chief Poole on this. I think the interactive piece meant that we would be more directly engaged with our stakeholders. So as a result of the process, a lot of work went into it, and get out and actually person to person, have interaction with them, gather that feedback throughout the year instead of just during the strategic planning process.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, thank you. Chief Dirksen, looks like you've got a question.
Yes, my question's in regard to performance indicator 2C5 regarding your performance with the call processing time with your dispatch center. The report states that there's a difference between how the call center calculates the call processing time versus what you have. If you could tell me what the differences are and what plans are you have in place to get that addressed?
Yes, sir. So I want to touch on that and then also pass along to the accreditation manager. Several years ago, we identified a need to be more involved in the communication system at a county level. A lot of times the fire service is reactive by nature, but when it can affect total response times, we feel obligated to get involved. And so our Deputy Chief of Operations, Tim Herman, was assigned to the Communications Committee with Wake County. So he's been instrumental over the last 5 years of trying to improve the relationship with the fire department and call processing. However, through the PSAP and through our site team visit, I'd like to turn it over to our accreditation manager, Jason Hathcock, who did most of the work in the report for the communications portion.
Thank you, Chief Poole. One of the things we acknowledged very early on in this process is we had a WACO agreement in place that set a goal of 130 seconds, 90% of the time for most fire and EMS calls. We have about 16 other municipalities that our PSAP is primarily responsible for, and they are an accredited entity. But as you are well aware, the IAED process is more process driven and not necessarily as much about time. So we completed a very comprehensive alarm handling study in 2020, and we shared that with all stakeholders as well as toured the facility. We were able to make some recommendations for improvement based on that. Some things they have already done. They've instituted auto dispatch for very specific call types. They've moved forward with fast dispatching or rapid dispatching for other EMD call types, and ASAP to PSAP integration, allowing alarm companies to directly enter calls. As part of the site visit from the peer team, we wanted additional recommendations that the Wake County Communications Subcommittee could begin conversations on. And some of those 4 recommendations were, this is directly from the comm center, increase the number of alarm companies able to perform ASAP to PSAP. So I guess there's some software limitations in that, upgrading software and infrastructure, increasing the number of personnel assigned to work in the fire and EMS pod, increasing the scope of auto dispatch for fire calls, and then telecommunicators ceasing to read remarks or premise notes on fire calls. So what we noted was an extensive amount of time that the call was sitting in the queue prior to dispatch. And in 2020, we did see some improvements in that. But as you all are aware, this is certainly a continuous improvement process, but they are certainly aware of this and willing to work with us as an agency in any way possible. And to add to that a little bit, Chief Herman, as part of that Wake County Communication Subcommittee, after several years of work, he was able to take components of this process and institute critical tasking analysis for structure fire related calls with benchmark times for all departments in Wake County. So I think that really speaks to the volume of the model beyond Garner and saying that we are truly trying to create a culture of taking what we've learned and share that with our other entities.
Very impressive. I'm glad to see that you're proactive in the study that you completed and the work that you're doing. And it's always great to have somebody leading the charge. And so congratulations on moving that forward.
Thank you, sir.
Thanks, Chief Dirksen. Actually, I just have one, I think, final question. It's recommendation 18 around incident safety officers. And it seems like the only training the health and safety officer has, according to the report, is the incident safety officer course. But then fire officers who are performing as incident safety officers don't actually have the formal training. Am I correct in that? And if so, what are the plans to move forward with that?
Yes, sir. Thank you. So several of the command staff obtain or have the incident safety officer, but a large portion of our officers do not. And so I want to turn it over to Assistant Chief Donnie Lindsay, who is our training officer, and talk about some improvements that we're planning on making regarding that certification.
Yes, thank you. So part of this looking into was how it was wrote that anybody on the scene can be the safety officer. Outside of myself. So looking at this, we have already started looking at some dates for NFA safety officer for 2021. We will start with the command staff and then pass that down to all the officers, actually all the members. We will try some train the trainer, bring that here in Garner, and actually hopefully by the end of 21 have all staff certified NFA safety officer. Thank you. So the end of this year, you're looking at having that one completed. So that's great. Not seeing any other questions. Can I ask for a motion to approve Garner Fire Rescue?
I'll make that motion.
Thanks, Jesse. Jesse Lytle making the motion. Can I get a second, please?
Second, Dirksen.
Thanks. Second, Steve Dirksen. Any further discussion on Garner Fire Rescue? Not hearing any. Any opposed? Congratulations, Garner Fire Rescue, on your first accreditation.
Thank you, sir. Thank you. If I could just make a brief comment, and then we will certainly depart. I've been contemplating what to say if we ever accomplish this goal. And about 10 o'clock this morning, I have a brother that's not in the fire service. And my family knew we were going through this today. And he emailed me and said, can you explain to me exactly what this means? And so I wanted to reply to him. But as I did that, I want to reply to you and to everybody that's watching this today. This was my reply to my brother. And this comes from my heart. There are 30,000 fire departments in the United States, and less than 300 have ever completed this process. That's less than 1% of the fire departments in this country. We've worked for this almost a decade, but mainly in the last 5 years, from creating strategic plans, completing 250 plus performance indicators, community risk assessment, and miscellaneous documents that total hundreds of pages of supporting documentation that truly outlines our business practices. I told him that if we were approved, we would be vetted by a national site team and an international hearing board. And I told him that along the path, we've improved call process and turnout and response time. We've improved planning zones, capital, facility, budgeting, apparatus repair, replacement, and maintenance. We've evaluated our fire district. We've created target hazards and improved commercial pre-planning. We created improvements all along the way. And then the last thing I told him, and I want to share with everybody, is we've been recognized today as providing industry best practices at the highest level in our occupation. Most firefighters prepare their whole career to rescue somebody from a burning building. They train every day to do that. And that's what this process is for our administration. We have trained to rescue somebody from a burning building on an administrative perspective. So thank you very much for allowing this opportunity, and thank you to everybody that has helped along the way.
Thank you, Chief Poole. That's very powerful. And certainly coming from an agency many times accredited as our other commissioners around the table and other agencies we see, we certainly know that it's a lot of work to achieve what you've achieved today, even more work to keep it going and to continue to improve. The bar constantly gets higher, which is a good thing. So thank you so much. And again, congratulations, and we'll make the arrangements to get the plaque to you. Thank you.
Thank you for your time. Thank you.
All right, next up is going to be the Village of Pinehurst.
Wilson and connecting right now.
Okay, thanks, Katie. Robert, you're not in jail, are you?
No, sir.
Okay, just checking with that brick background.
It's better than the curtains.
Yeah, gotcha.
Video for some reason. Start the video. Left side, bottom left. Little camera.
Chief Cole, I can hear you.
Here we are. Okay, we got you now.
All right, you guys look good. Chief Dongworth, all yours.
Thanks very much, Carl. So next agency up, Village of Pinehurst Fire Department, North Carolina. Again, that's first three today, and second accreditation for the Village of Pinehurst. Without further ado, I'm going to hand over to Team Leader Robert Lee to do introductions. Thank you.
Thank you. Good morning, Commissioners and Carl. It's my pleasure to represent the team that visited the Village of Pinehurst, and that included, in addition to me, David Hoback, Steve Hook, and Tracy Raimondo. Representing Village of Pinehurst, I can see Chief Cole and Chief Clouston, and I think his village manager is there. I can't see, given the distance there. I am correct. All right. Excellent. We did recognize an agency that has embraced accreditation, has embraced it and placed it into their culture, and they use an extension as an extension of the village's overall goal of performance improvement. So with that being said, and all the good things that we were able to identify when we were on the ground in Pinehurst, we overwhelmingly recommend re-accreditation for the Village of Pinehurst. With that being said, I'll turn that over to the chief himself, Carlton Cole.
Thank you, Chief Lee. Good afternoon, Mr. Chairman and members of the commission. Today's another beautiful day in Pinehurst. I'd like to thank you for your time and the opportunity to appear before you to demonstrate our compliance with the fire department accreditation criteria and our commitment to continuous improvement as an organization. We firmly believe that the process has helped us to provide more efficient and effective mission-based services for those that we serve. I'd also like to thank Chief Lee and the peer team. They did a thorough job, and I appreciate their candid feedback on our operations and identifying some areas that we can improve. I'd also like to thank our mayor, village council, village manager, assistant managers, and other department heads for their support throughout the process and by ingraining continuous improvement in our culture as a village. Our partner agencies that include the surrounding fire departments and municipalities, the county EMS and emergency communication system, and finally, my command staff at the fire department and all of the men and women of Pinehurst Fire Department. They're always willing to accept a new challenge and implement change in a professional and caring manner. They're second to none, and I appreciate their support through the process, and they hold the responsibility of our success as an organization. I'm looking forward to our discussion today and welcome any questions. And I guess I should have began with introducing to my right our village manager, Jeff Sanborn, and Deputy Chief and Accreditation Manager, Derek Clouston. And I'll ask Mr. Sanborn if he has any comments to make.
Thanks, Carlton. And I want to thank you all for this opportunity to focus on something that we care very deeply about, and that is improvement. Improvement is one of our 4 core values here at the Village of Pinehurst and include our fire department. And using the Baldridge Excellence Framework, we have nurtured a culture of continuous improvement within our village team. Your accreditation methodology is and has been a terrific way for us to implement continuous improvement in our fire department. Ultimately, it drives us toward excellence and the inculcation of best practices, or maybe through the inculcation of best practices. And this ultimately leads us to the best possible service for our customers, those being our residents and our property owners in the village. Our peer team was thorough and a pleasure to work with. We thank them for their dedication and effort to make us the best that we possibly can be. And I guess with that, we'll turn it over for questions.
Thanks very much, Mr. Sanborn. It's great to see Village Manager here at the table with the rest of the team today. So thank you very much. I think first question is Chief Dirksen.
There we go. Good afternoon. Welcome to the table. Congratulations on coming here for the second time. It's always good to see people come back and see the things that you've learned over the first 5 years of being an accredited department. My question goes to, in category 5F, there's a recommendation that talks about capturing more county EMS response times. Is that something that your dispatch center is capable of capturing, or if you could explain how that process works?
That is something that the dispatch center can capture, and it's included now on our CAD reports. I think the recommendation is that we include that with our reporting so that we can show from the initial call to the on-scene arrival of emergency medical care, the time lapse that's in there. So that's something we are in the process of including on our emergency and on our fire reports and emergency medical response calls.
Very good. Well, I'm glad to see that you're already working through that and capturing those total ERF times. Very good.
Any other questions from Commission?
We'd be satisfied with just one.
I'll jump in with one if I may. It's not a critical competency. In fact, I compliment you with how few of the recommendations are actual critical competencies, but it is one that interests me, which is around with your training sessions and your drills, making sure they all have a basic lesson plan with the objectives to be covered, as well as any of the safety considerations that may be relevant to the performance of that training. So I wonder if you could speak to that. I think it's a pretty important component, if only from the safety perspective.
That is something that we do take that seriously, and we do have basic objectives and goals for each training session that we do. We just don't do great as far as documenting that. Chief Clouston actually is responsible for our training programs. I'll let you answer if you have other things to say.
Yes, sir, Chief. So currently we've engaged the State Fire Marshal's Office. We're very fortunate to have a relationship, and based off the state training programs, they're actually forwarding to us a list of all the objectives for all the NFPA protocol standards that they have. So NFPA 1000, 1002, all the way up to the fire officer, including technical rescuer. So what we're going to do is we're going to create a library of objectives within our RMS system. And once we have that library of objectives within the records management system, we will put those into our training system. So whenever we schedule training, we will go through and we will pull across those objectives that most closely match that training and what we're after, to make sure that we do have those objectives and they are there. So that way, when the battalion commanders and the captains are going through and doing their training and determining, what is the true intent of the training, they have the objectives right there ready to go. And then that will be a part of the training record, and we'll follow that training record. And once it's done and everybody successfully completes it, of course, they'll be graded on their performance. And then that becomes a permanent part of the training record. So if for those types of training that are not related to NFPA 1001, you heard our manager speak briefly about our ball ridge process. We have internal training to the village. We will also create those objectives for internal training that might not be related specifically to an emergency services like 1001, 1002, but to that village training, we will have objectives in that as well. And we follow that within our records management system currently as well. So we're kind of taking a two-tiered approach to that. And it's, we feel that we should have that up and running within the next 2 to 3 months.
Thank you for that. Chief Dirksen, I believe you have another question.
Yeah, I actually have 2 additional ones, not related to any of the core competencies, but something in the report that just struck my my mind as I read through it. In category 6, it talks about the department has an adequate supply of PPE. Do you have 2 sets of PPE for all of your folks?
We do. We issue 2 sets of turnout gear, hoods, gloves, and each person is issued individual SCBA mask, so that they can rotate through that as they need to. And we have a requirement that they wash at least every 6 months or after every 5.
Very good. No, the report didn't call it out, and that kind of struck me there. So I appreciate the answer. And then the other one that comes, the question that I see comes in regards to category 9B communication systems, but it says the Pinehurst Fire Department mandates that a minimum of 25% of off-duty personnel be available daily in the event a recall is necessary. How do you manage that?
Each employee, each full-time person's issued a pager. We also have the ability to text message. And when we have a call type that dictates that we need to call people back in for a specific incident, it's basically an all call. And our expectation is just that 25% of our staff return. And we typically have probably 35 to 40% return when we do that, because it happens a couple of times a month on average. So it's not really high frequency.
Okay, thanks.
Thanks, Chief Dirksen. I'm not seeing any more questions from Commission. Great report. Thank you, Village of Pinehurst. Can I get a motion to approve, please?
Move to approve, Dirksen.
Thanks, Steve. Can I get a second?
Second, Arnold.
Thanks, Brad Arnold. Appreciate that. Second. Any further discussion on the Village of Pinehurst?
Yes, Chief, I have another question. I'm sorry. I was just kind of debating whether or not I want to ask this or not.
Go ahead.
In terms of the standby, holding your career personnel on standby, are you compensating them for that standby time?
They're not required to be on call. And that's why we do a 25% of all employees. Is whoever is available to come back in. And we do compensate them when they come in. It's a minimum of 2 hours, plus the time in addition to that it may be, but they're not like required. I know where the question's coming from. They're not required to do it from the standpoint of they can't do anything else. So we're looking for an overall 25% that they have availability.
So not mandated to have those pagers on?
They're not mandated to have the pagers on.
Thank you.
Yeah, great question, Thomas. Thank you. So again, we're back to any further discussion. We have a motion on the floor. Not hearing any. Any opposed? Not hearing any. Congratulations, Village of Pinehurst, on your 2nd accreditation. Great job. Good report. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
We'll make the arrangements to get the plaque to you.
Thank you.
Great, thank you.
All right, next up is Joint Base Langley Eustis, Langley Air Force Base, Fire and Emergency Services.
I think that should be everyone. They're connecting right now.
Okay. Robert, can you hear us all right? Chief Rose, I see you guys. Hear us okay?
Yes, sir.
Good to see you as a civilian chief in front of the commission this time. Robert, are you in country or are you still overseas?
No, I got back this weekend. I'm back from. Yes.
You are a moving individual. Chief Donworth, we have everybody there. It's all yours.
Thank you so much. Welcome, Joint Base Langley Fire and Emergency Services, Joint Base Langley Eustis, Virginia. 4th accreditation. That's a good achievement for sure. We've just got the hearing as the final hurdle. Welcome. I'll hand straight over to Robert, our team lead, to do introductions, please.
Okay. Thank you. Good afternoon, Mr. Chairman and members of the commission. I'm Robert Sepulveda, team leader, and I'm proud to present to you the report for Joint Base Langley Eustis Langley Fire Emergency Services and their bid for accredited status. Joint Base Langley maintains a career staff of 14 civil service positions and 48 military firefighters that are authorized according to the Air Force manpower standard. They have 2 fire stations operating on Joint Base Langley, one on the main base and one off-base privatized housing complex area. The fire stations are distributed effectively to ensure they comply with the DoD 6055 requirements. In 2020, they had 550 emergencies. In a moment, I'll have the agency introduce themselves. In addition to myself, I would like to thank peer assessors William Hunt, Jamie Strassner, and Marcus Traxler. A site visit was conducted earlier this year, and I found an agency that embraces the principles of continuous process improvement. The agency was well prepared and have either fully remedied or are prepared for a plan of action for the recommendations for a successful improvement in their department. Their dedication to the process is characterized by their actions, including their staff's commitment of fostering a culture of safety and ensuring the department members are resourced properly. It was also confirmed that their base leadership is a strong advocate of the fire department. The peer assessment team identified 7 recommendations, which will help this strong organization become even more efficient in their operations. The fire chief and his staff are intensely committed to the process, and I'm honored to present the agency with a recommendation for accredited status. At this time, I'll pass it over to Fire Chief David Rose and have him introduce his staff. Thank you. All right, good afternoon, everyone. Thank you, Chairman and Commissioners, for the opportunity. We appreciate your time. Special thank you to Chief Sepulveda and his team that came here and did our assessment. That was great. Very professional team, and we actually learned quite a bit from them, and we're able to carry a lot of their recommendations forward. So as I introduce my team, to my right is Lieutenant Colonel Ashgren. He is our base civil engineer and our commander. To my left is our accreditation manager, Master Sergeant Senecal, and on his left is Mr. John Laporte, our prior accreditation manager, and we bring him in just to show that we have that continuity, even in a department here where in the last 3 years since I've been here, we've had 7 key positions have changed in that short amount of time. So we're constantly learning and evolving. So at this point, I would like to turn it over to Colonel Ashgren for any comments he has.
Hey, good afternoon. It's Lieutenant Colonel Ashgren. So I just want to take the opportunity to say thanks. Thanks for this opportunity, and thanks for meeting with us and looking at our program and going through and coming to visit. It's been hugely, as Chief Rose said, it's been a learning experience for us, and we're constantly learning, constantly evolving. But I'm really proud of this team. Really proud of everything they do day in and day out. I think we have an outstanding department, and I'm really just happy to be here today and say thanks to Chairman and Commissioners for hosting this.
All right. One last comment for me before we get started is just want everybody to know that we embrace the process, the continuous improvement, and hopefully that showed when the assessment team was here that we look at the change out of personnel as an opportunity to get new eyes on the process and to make sure we're doing things right. Thank you.
Thank you very much. We'll go to questions from commissioners. I think Chief Keating first, please.
Okay, thank you, and thanks for staying with it. And the fourth time around, excellent report. In criteria 5, almost all the way through it, there was a recommendation. Basically, the annual process of appraisals be enhanced to better determine would your program effectiveness to the need. Has anything been done towards that? Any plans moving towards that?
Yes, Chief, thank you for the question. Absolutely. And while the assessment was team was here visiting, not gonna lie, we reach out, we use our network, and we find people that have done it successfully. We were lacking in that aspect, but we were able to find some processes through some spreadsheets that we can appraise all of our programs using what other accredited departments have used. So we are currently using that.
Excellent, excellent. That's what it's all about. Sharing the ideas to improve not only yourself, but others. Thanks.
Chief Dirksen, I think you're next.
Yes, good morning. Welcome to the table. And again, appreciate you sticking through the process. 4 times is a good thing to be at. My question's again in regard to category 5. When we talk about your fire response or your EMS response, I think it was, we have, you sent your benchmarks at 7 minutes, but then when you have the ARF, you have it set at 1 minute. If you could just explain the difference between where those benchmarks are so much different, because my general understanding of the military times is they're set for you. So if you could just explain why those benchmarks are different.
Yes, sir. And I think when you're talking about the medical response, that's more the standard response that everybody would understand. For the airfield, we have announced and unannounced emergencies. And for an announced emergency, that time hack is going to begin once we are already on scene in our designated standby locations on the airfield. Okay. So then we have 1 minute to get to the aircraft from that designated spot once the aircraft stops. So hopefully that explains it well.
Yeah, no, that's what I thought it was, but I wanted to hear it from you if that's the way it was working. I'm a little bit familiar with being at your spot and then the response, but I was kind of, making sure that we all have the understanding of you're not just responding from the station and expected to be somewhere in a minute. That's pretty tough.
Yes, sir. A lot of times when an in-flight emergency comes in, we might be in a holding pattern for 15 minutes waiting on that aircraft to actually come into the airfield.
Right. Very good. I do have one follow-up question, Mr. Chair, if I can. In regards to your technical rescue program, you talk about in the report about the turnover of your personnel because of just how the military works. What kind of a plan do you have in place to ensure that you have those well-trained folks with that specialty?
Well, lucky for us, as a former military, most of us all received the same training at each different location. So PCS is a part of life. Like I said, many of us, our entire leadership team has changed out almost. I think Mr. Laporte is the long tenured person here. And so we all bring our training from other bases as well. So a lot of times that brings in new ideas and additional training that maybe some other base had, some other specialty that we can incorporate here at Langley. So it's just a matter of getting those people that are right for the positions and then training the ones that we inherit here that are maybe new personnel. And we seek out courses and training all the time.
Very good. Thank you.
Thanks, Chief Dirksen. I have one question, actually. It's recommendation number 3 from core competency around 5B1, and it's conducting an analysis to identify your high-risk audiences for kind of fire safety education programs, I think, if I read in the report. Switching from more anecdotal analysis to more evidence-based analysis. I'm wondering if you've had a chance to think about how you're going to do that, whether you've implemented that. Tell me some more, please.
Yes, sir. Lucky for us, we already kind of had that in the works with the rewrite of our base supplement. So the Langley Air Force Base Supplement 32/2001 addresses all of our high-risk hazard areas to include training of facility managers, special training for places of public assembly, fire evacuation drills, and our hot work, welding, cutting, brazing, and grinding operations. So we established those as our highest risk, and those are ones we dedicate special training to.
And presumably some of that rolls back into your community risk reduction efforts within that umbrella anyway. I guess also, though, you've got that focus because you have housing kind of areas as well. You probably have some different risks that occur there, maybe more vulnerable people, young, children, maybe some senior people as well. I'm sure that's part of your thinking too.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Any other questions from Commission?
Chairman, I had one.
Go ahead, Bradley.
Yeah, it's related to recommendation number 5. I know that the recommendation is to continually seek funding for those needed improvements for the fire station living quarters. But is there actually a targeted time frame that the agency is looking to meet rather than just through this accreditation period actively seeking funding?
Yeah, so that's Fire Station 2 for us. It's actually in our off-base housing area. So we do have some good news on that front this year. The construction tasking order went through, and the base and the station was listed on it. So that means for this coming year, it will be funded and construction will start.
Excellent. That's good news, and thanks.
Any other questions from Commission? Again, a great report. I was impressed, not too many recommendations, and within those recommendations, very few centered on core competencies. So that's always a sign of a great agency. And after this being your 4th, I guess that's the way it should be, but still, congratulations. Can I get a motion to approve, please?
Keating, motion to approve.
Thanks, Chief Keating. A second?
Second, Lytle.
Thanks, Jesse. Appreciate that. Any further discussion on Joint Base Langley Eustis? Not hearing any. Any opposed? Not hearing any. Congratulations, Joint Base Langley Eustis, on your 4th accreditation. Well done. As I say, great report. Keep up that journey of continuous improvement. It never stops. And we'll certainly make the arrangements to get your plaque to you at the base. So thanks again. Have a great day.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, I'm letting in Davenport now. Oh, shoot.
Steve, the team leaders
has been able to make it.
Okay. Team leader's having difficulty connecting, so I'm not sure we're going to be able to get him on. Do you wish to proceed just with the agency and the report, or would you rather give it a few minutes? We got a little time after this anyway.
Yeah, I mean, we could just give it a couple of minutes. You think Ralph's probably trying to jump on?
Yeah, I know he's trying to work it.
Okay, we can give it. We can just give it a couple of minutes and see for sure. We're doing quite well, I think, for time.
Davenport Fire, you guys hear us okay and connected? There you are. Video works, but no sound. Cannot hear you. I see your mic is hot, at least the one that's connected to Zoom.
Carl, do you want to move up the break and then use the 15 minutes to see if we can get Davenport and Ralph online?
Yes, sir. That would be just fine, being the breaks right after this.
Yeah, so how about we break till 11:30 and then see if we can get Davenport and Ralph online for 11:30. Would that work with everyone?
Okay.
Okay.
Hey, Katie.
Yes.
Yeah, I see what you're talking about. I haven't, I guess I haven't paid attention, unfortunately, that because the CFAI one and everything that I use is normally applies for both of them, and I see where this does not. So
Yeah, and I guess since we're live streaming, I can't edit anything, so I can't go back and add one.
right.
So.
Katie, did you talk to Ralph?
No, he's been emailing with Cindy and it keeps telling him that the host has removed him, but I've not seen his name show up yet, so I'm not sure what's going on.
Can we? I'll send him another link.
Maybe have him try a different browser.
Maybe a moot, just because if we can't get Davenport connected, which I'm hoping we're going to be able to.
Yeah. I'll be right back, Carl.
All right. Cindy, if you're on here and texting with Ralph, let him know that I just sent him another link. Chief Carlston, Davenport Fire. Don't know if you can hear me. What might work, if you can't do it in council chambers or in the room you're at, is there an ability to individually do it at your office desks? Might be a backup possibility. Sorry for the inconvenience and that we're not able to get you in there, but I'm just offering some different solutions. Hey, Katie.
Yes, sorry.
It keeps getting, he's rebooted. He's tried different browsers. It keeps saying the same thing. It says the host removed him. Is there any way to reacquire once the host removes him if we denied him access?
I checked in the reported users list and he's not there. There's nobody there. So I don't know what the problem is.
Okay. All right. Thanks.
Yep.
Is that Ralph you're talking about, Carl?
Yeah.
Okay.
Hey, Steve.
So do we have audio from Davenport, Katie?
We're trying to connect on a phone with them right now.
Okay. Okay. I knew it had been going too well for a few hearings now that sometime I think ever since Qatar, we had that problem. So
Yeah.
it was due.
I think maybe this will work for Davenport, but I'm not sure about Ralph. I think Carl's still working on that.
No.
All right, Davenport, is it working now? So just make sure you mute the other line. The audio on the other line.
Hello, Katie.
Yes.
Are we getting the feedback? Are we done?
There's still an echo. Is the main Davenport link muted and the audio and the mic turned off?
We're working on turning it. Brian, unplug this. Unplug the USB. We just turned it off. Yeah. Can you hear us now?
There's still an echo.
We're working on computer speaker.
Okay, but yes, we can hear you. There's just an echo.
All right, now can you hear us?
Yes, perfect.
All of our audio is on cell phone at this time, and then Brian will go ahead and bring us up for video.
Okay, perfect. Sounds
So
great.
please let us know if you can't hear anything. I don't know if we have Ralph with us yet or not.
Not yet, but I'm going to make one more phone call for an idea for him. Stand by.
I don't know.
All right, he's going to try to access through his phone to see if that'll make a difference. And we can go there. Chief Dongworth, without the team leader, do you want to proceed or reschedule? How would you wish to proceed?
I think we could proceed without Ralph if he can't jump on. Sorry, I just turned off my camera because I was eating.
Steve, that might be a possibility. I just don't know. we'll see if we can get
Going
them in.
all options.
Yeah. I will give that a call, give them a couple minutes to connect, and then if that doesn't work, I will try that. On the funny side, we're asking a lot of a Bears fan to be able to accomplish this, you know.
But we do have Bears fans in Davenport too.
I'm sorry.
We all have our weaknesses or strengths.
Very good.
I think the Bears at least know who their quarterback is going to be this year.
Yeah, Carl, we have one of those with us too, but we don't beat them up too much about it.
Yeah, I know it's probably tough being in Iowa and no real football team, right?
Well, that's why we play baseball.
Ah, very good.
And college sports through the year.
I'm going to give him a call. I'm guessing it isn't working. Okay, I'm going to put him on my speaker and see if I can't run it onto my microphone for my computer. So I'm going to be off. I won't be able to listen as we go through this. Standby. Hold on. All right, try it again.
I'm here.
All right.
Yeah, I can hear you just fine.
Yeah, I'm asking the commission the same thing. Stand by. They can hear you.
Okay. I've actually got it up on YouTube
I can hear
right
Ralph.
now. It seems like there might be a little bit of a delay issue, but I think we should be able to get through this.
There is. Don't watch YouTube. Just talk into the speaker. Chief Dongworth, the floor is yours.
Sorry, before you start, Ralph, please make sure to mute the YouTube link because there's going to be feedback.
Katie, were you talking to me?
I was letting Ralph know he needs to mute his YouTube because there's a delay, so there's going to be feedback.
Your YouTube, okay.
And I turned it off.
Okay.
Perfect. Okay. Welcome, Davenport. I think we finally got everything working. So by one means or another, we can hear from everyone. So without further ado, let's hand over to team leader Ralph Henson.
All right, Ralph, you want to do your introduction? Proceed.
Yeah, I will go ahead and proceed. I'm having a hard time hearing, so if there are some questions that may come up, please feel free to relay those to me if you wouldn't, Carl. Mind?
I will.
Okay. Thank you to the commission for allowing us to come in this kind of unusual method. I apologize as to why I can't get into the commission hearing this morning or this afternoon, but we'll work our way through this. My name is Ralph Fenstein, and I did serve as the team leader for the Davenport Fire Department in Davenport, Iowa. And following the rules of the commission, you've been informed of the department's history, the organizational structure, and the documentation, so I will not review that. At this time, I'd like to really thank the peer team that was assigned on this site visit. Steve Dubay, Colorado Springs Fire Department, Chris Angermiller from Grand Junction Fire Department, also in Colorado, and Brandy Bruns from the Jacksonville Fire and Emergency Services in North Carolina. I would also like to thank Chief Carlson, who I will turn this over to momentarily. I had a family emergency just prior to coming on site in Davenport, and the Davenport Fire Department couldn't have been more accommodating to accommodate me during this family emergency. And I was only able to be on site for 2 days, on Sunday and Monday, and then the team took over the rest of the way. They handled it seamlessly, flawlessly. They stepped up. They couldn't have done a better job on the site visit. So I really wanted to call them out for the excellent work that they did and thank them very much for that. When we were on site and going through the documentation, they did an awesome job on their self-assessment manual, on their standards of cover, and also on their strategic plan. The department was very open and candid. They were very forthright in showing us around the city, letting us know what the issues were and how they're dealing with the issues. We came up with a minimum amount of core competency recommendations and also some performance indicator recommendations. And with that said, I will, as we recommend Davenport for accredited agency status, I will turn it over to Chief Carlson.
All right. Thank you, Ralph. With that being said, I'd like to thank the commission and Carl and Ralph for bearing with us through our technical difficulties here. We will continue to move forward and look forward to some questions afterwards. But before I begin, I'd like to introduce the members of the Davenport Fire Administration and the accreditation team for the Davenport Fire Department. I myself am Mike Carlston, the fire chief. On either side of me, I have my fire marshal, Jim Morris, as assistant chief, and our operations chief, Rob McDougall. Also with us today is Jolly Omar. He was the accreditation manager that worked us through the process. And Jolly has moved on to work in the finance department within the city of Davenport. And we have recently acquired Hannah Whitehorse, and she is going to assume the role of accreditation manager here in the near future. And with that being said, we also have some of our team members who are not with us today. They're Captain Ron Burchett, Captain Todd Witch, Lieutenant Solis, Brad Cruz, Assistant Rush, and former accreditation Ian Corporal. I'd like to personally thank them for their commitment, dedication to this organization, the community we serve, and their contributions to the accreditation process. This process would not have been possible nor successful without their efforts. I also want to acknowledge our peer assessment team. The guidance provided by the team lead truly prepared the department for the site visit and made the site visit a positive, fluid process for the peer assessors and our organization. The entire peer assessor team reflected the professionalism, dedication, and values of the Center of Public Safety Excellence. Their insight was invaluable, and we appreciate the recommendations given to our department and the thoughtful explanation provided during the exit interview process. We have accepted all of these recommendations and are conducting research and speaking with the appropriate partners in efforts to implement these recommendations in a quick and effective manner. This is the Davenport Fire Department's second re-accreditation process. It's an honor for us to continue being part of this process. Over the years, the accreditation process has taught the department valuable lessons in the importance of continuous self-improvement and self-evaluation. The process has proven to be challenging, yet rewarding. It has resulted in our department providing an increased and measurable level of performance to our community, staying current with industry standards and best practices, and most importantly, monitoring and maintaining the safety of all of our firefighters. Through the process, we have learned the importance of not just measuring performance, but using the measures as decision-making tools to help enhance our operational structure. In addition, the self-assessment aspect allows us to explore our strengths and weaknesses to ensure the department is operating as efficient and effectively as possible and develop plans for future improvements. The accreditation process has supported the department's efforts to fulfill the mission of protecting life and property through education, prevention, and response, while also helping us be true to our values of being recognized as a progressive, well-trained, and community-focused organization that cultivates communication and cooperation through respecting and acknowledging diverse ideas and perspectives. We understand that the accreditation process is an ongoing one that will require continuous reevaluation and improvement. And we are looking forward to the continuous improvement and being recognized as an accredited fire department. At this time, we are looking to take questions from the board.
Thanks very much, Chief. I appreciate that. Let's go with Bradley first, please.
Thanks. When I was going through the report and being this is for a third accreditation, I was surprised at how many of the recommendations are focused around the human resources component. And so I'm glad to see the recommendations that are here to be able to have a continuous improvement in that particular area. Under recommendation 9, again, I was sort of surprised that we're not providing an annual training on sexual harassment and discrimination. So certainly support the recommendation that is there. I know that in the recommendation and in the staff report information, it talks about the Human Resources Department providing that training. So I'll provide a suggestion, then a question. The suggestion is you may want to look at your insurance provider may actually provide free attorney to come and present that annual training over sexual harassment and discrimination, because case law changes every single year. And so it's helpful to be able to have that additional, I'll call it what not to do, and also some best practices related to that. So my question is, how have you progressed on that particular recommendation? Hopefully y'all have already started moving forward and getting that implemented now rather than later.
We have made progress. I can tell you that we have not done it annually since I've been the fire chief, but we have done it at least once, if not twice, in the last 3 years. So it's not an annual process. We have identified this as a shortcoming. We have a new HR director that had started in her position this last spring, and we actually have the first round of diversity, equality, and inclusive training scheduled here for the end of July. So we are making progress. We are starting with the department heads throughout the city and the elected officials, and from there, we're going to work it through each organization. But this is something that we've already talked with the human resource of actually making this a formalized annual plan so that we can stay current and make sure that all of our personnel are prepared to do the job to the best of their ability.
I'm glad you're making progress on that. Thanks for that update, because it's clear that you recognize that's an important activity, and I'm glad that your new Human Resources Department director is taking that seriously as well. So thanks for the response and a good report. Thanks.
Thank you.
Chief Dirksen, are you ready to go?
I am. Good afternoon, Davenport. Glad to see you at the table again. My question is in regards to the first recommendation regarding the strategic plan. It looks like you're up for strategic plan review next year. At least that's what the date of the current plan is out. What plans do you have in place to gather a more extensive external stakeholder input?
Well, we just formally adopted our new strategic plan. We did that after the site visit, probably about 2-3 weeks ago. I believe it might have been the 1st of July when we actually adopted it. As far as the external stakeholders, we had 130 personnel or 130 individuals that were given a survey, still within COVID times. We did this through SurveyMonkey. And basically it was a SWOT analysis with some other input that they are allowed. And that was all compiled into our new strategic plan. Even though the date of the old plan still had a year to go, we thought it was important that we move forward just for the fact that it was time to update things. And we didn't want to wait to just the deadline on the report. We wanted to make sure that we are progressive and moving forward. So we formally adopted that here in July. It's been issued out to all of our personnel. And we are working on plans of how we're going to implement all the objectives that we've listed.
So just a follow-up question, how were your 130 stakeholders selected?
They were just community partners that we have. Some of it is through what we have locally. It's the QC Emergency Planning Commission, and they are individuals of other response agencies, businesses. If we ever had an event within the Quad City region, they would be the stakeholders that would be affected by it. So it was basically partnerships that we have already through administrative committees and commissions that we have here locally.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks, Chief Dirksen. Any other questions from Commission?
I did have one, Mr.
Thanks,
Chair.
Jim. Go ahead.
Criterion 5, looking at your times in there from your baseline to your benchmarks, everything looks just absolutely excellent. You're making it almost all the way across the board except for EMS, and EMS appears to be an outlier. Can you give any more information on that?
Jolly, did you want to address that?
Yep.
Well, it's Jolly Omar, data analyst, accreditation manager. So the reason for the change in times between the EMS compared to the other service types like fire suppression, tech rescue, or hazmat is due to in 2018, our county actually, our dispatching center changed our priority dispatching system. So we broke up EMS fast track calls and EMS non-fast track calls. And so your fast track calls are going to be the 13 different descriptors, cardiac arrest, trouble breathing, your high end incident levels for EMS. And then your non-fast track will be longer times because they're the non-impactful or non-immediate situations, but also the dispatchers are asking additional questions for those specific incidents. So for fast track, we're getting personnel out the door faster, but still with those non-fast track calls, it's starting to extend our times. And that's kind of the discussions we've had with SEC. The Scott County Emergency Communication Centers, we've established monthly meetings with the data analyst and then their quality assurance performance improvement managers to just get a basic understanding of what our times are each month, but also finding those specific outliers or those specific incidents where we have longer extended times and how we can address to kind of improve those. So that's the reason why we found those extended times, but we're working diligently on how to address those in the future. So.
Excellent. That's a good explanation of that. And there is a recommendation, obviously, also in the EMS section that would indicate to follow up and exactly in the pathway you're doing. Thank you for that.
Chief Butler, looks like you've got a question.
Yes, kind of circling back to the discussion regarding diversity, equity, and inclusion training modality from HR. Is this an off-the-shelf program curriculum, or was it created specifically for this organization?
It's actually being conducted by a third-party vendor, so I'm not quite sure what the actual content is. I haven't participated in the class, but I do know it's a third-party vendor from outside the city of Davenport that's hosting this class.
Okay. All right. Thanks. I was just curious, continuously trying to learn what others are doing out there to create some organic and programs specifically for their organizations. So thank you.
Yes, and this is not just strictly for the fire department. This is a citywide program, and so it's going out from the elected officials all the way down to our newest members.
Will the department be able to tailor any pieces of it for our work environment?
I'm not exactly sure what we're going to be able to do, but I do know that public safety, police, and fire have asked for some things just due to the fact that our roles are a little bit different in the community than maybe a public works employee. So we're looking at what we can do and how we can tailor, but I don't have a definite answer for you at this time.
Okay.
Thanks, Chief Butler. And I couldn't agree more with where I think you're going with that in terms of the necessity to tailor those kind of programs for our culture, our environment. We have the same kind of struggles where we have a canned package, which is for everyone at our city, but it seems focused most of the time on more of an office environment. And our environment is a little bit different to an office environment. But anyway, I won't belabor that one. Any other questions? Not seeing any. Can I get a motion to approve, please?
I make a motion to approve. Bradley Arnold.
Thanks, Bradley. Second?
Keating, second.
Thanks, Chief Keating. Appreciate that. Any further discussion on Davenport? Any opposed? Not hearing any. congratulations, Davenport. Even with all the technical challenges, third accreditation, good report. Thank you so much for being here today.
Thank you for your time and being with us.
You're welcome.
What's fun about doing this, it always gets unique and we overcome it.
We find a way.
No doubt. It worked. Thanks, Steve Dirksen. He gave the idea. All right, next up is West Des Moines, Iowa.
All right, I think they're all in and connecting right now.
Thank you, Katie. Chief Potter, you're looking well. You're muted. Still got your mic off. There
How
you go.
about now?
Now
All
you
right.
sound better.
Thank you, sir.
Okay.
All
I
right.
think we're
Chief Lou, can you hear us?
I am unmuted now. Can you hear me?
Yes, sir. I can.
Outstanding.
All right. I think we're ready to go, Chief.
Thanks very much, Carl. Appreciate that. West Des Moines Fire Department, Iowa, fourth accreditation. Without further ado, let's hear from Team Leader Richard Potter to do some introductions.
Good afternoon, Chairman Dogworth and Commissioners. My name is Rick Potter with the City of Shawnee Fire Department in Shawnee, Kansas. I had the privilege of representing the Commission as the peer team lead for the West Des Moines Fire Department site visit. Our peer team consisted of Chief Barry Shugart of the Defense Logistics Agency in New Cumberland, Pennsylvania, Division Chief Joey Heidemann of the Olathe Fire Department in Olathe, Kansas, and Miss Laura Douglas of the Yocha-Dihi Fire Department in Yocha-Dihi, Winton Nation. Our team was initially assigned West Des Moines Fire Department's documents, and those documents were uploaded on March 8th of this year. And after a thorough review, site visit was approved on April 2nd. We conducted the site visit on April 25th through the 29th. And during our site visit and visiting with the fire department, city administration, the IAFF local, it was very clear that this entire organization supports the accreditation model for continuous improvement. And I would like to take just a quick second to talk about a young man, Matt Lehman, who did a phenomenal job in taking over as the new accreditation manager. Just a very bright young man with a great future, and wanted to just give him a shout out on this one occasion. As you mentioned, Chairman Dongworth, this is West Des Moines' fourth time before the commission. We did identify opportunities for improvement, which included 12 strategic and 6 specific recommendations, which I'm going to let Chief Lou talk about here in a second. So many of those were already addressed, and after a thorough review, the peer team unanimously recommends West Des Moines Fire Department for consideration for accreditation by the commission. And at this time, I would like to introduce Fire Chief Craig Liu and let him speak.
Thank you, Chief. On behalf of the men and women of the West Des Moines Fire Department, City Manager Tom Hedden, our Mayor Steve Gear, and all of our elected leadership, I want to thank the Commission on sending such a competent team to verify and validate our approach to continuous improvement. Today, I am joined in another room. I'm actually in South Central Kansas, in the town I grew up in, helping some family members move this week. And I'm starting to question the wisdom of sitting on the app floor of the fire station that I grew up in mid-July with no air conditioning. So in my Class A uniform, but I will make it through it. I'm joined today by my Assistant Chief, Ryan Hall, And as Chief Potter already mentioned, Captain Matt Lehman. Matt is a captain for 7 more days, and then he has been promoted or accepted a promotion to the rank of deputy chief. They have both done great work. But once again, I want to thank Chief Potter and his site team. We had a lot of great conversation, and we continue to improve on our operation. And that is the goal of this, to provide better service to our citizens and our visitors. With that, we would be more than happy to answer any questions you may have.
Thanks, Chief. I appreciate that. We have a question from Chief Dirksen to start with.
Good afternoon, West Des Moines. Welcome to the table again. I'm glad to see you here. As a native Iowan, it's always good to see Iowa departments coming through. So that's good to see. My question is revolves around recommendation number 1, monitoring for your ability to meet your upcoming programs. And I read in the report that you've recently had your strategic plan updated and adopted by the City Commission. Does that strategic plan include the addition of personnel to meet the needs and the demands of the community?
The short answer is yes. Our strategic plan, basically, it's a blanket statement that we use for the city to cover the growth of the city. We need to grow with the city. And that is, since I've been here 6 years now, we have added 12 positions on staff and 1 in our Fire Prevention Bureau. We will continue to do that as we grow. I have full faith in our elected leaders and my city manager to make sure that we keep up.
Very good, thank you.
Chief Keating, you're up next.
Well, actually, my question was Steve's, but I did want to say hi to Chief Lou. We've had a long past together back in Kansas. It's been a while since I've seen him. Congratulations on this wonderful report and for going through this for 4 times. So small world, great to see you again, and keep up the good work.
Thanks, Jim. It's nice to see you as well.
Any other questions from commissioners? In not hearing any, I'll go a little bit with recommendation number 6, Chief, around relaunch of crew performance evaluations and making sure that those results are documented and stored, I guess, in the RMS. Can you talk about that's certainly very, very important to us in our context. Just wondering how you're making out with that and what your plans are.
Yes, it's very important with us. As everyone knows, COVID threw curveballs at everybody, and we had to suspend a lot of things that we would normally do. And then, of course, as we come out of COVID, we're in a severe drought in central Iowa right now. We just started last Thursday, actually, to be able to train with water again. And we are doing that, and we are looking at a new RMS system to handle our vast needs. Soon to be Chief Lehman could go into the needs we need from an RMS are pretty significant of the way we track our numbers. We believe we'll identify that. We are tracking it as of now with our old system, which we believe we can keep running indefinitely until we find a new system. Does that answer your question, sir?
Yeah, what kind of timeline do you think to have one of the challenges I know with this is migrating old records can be as much of a challenge as setting up a new system. So I'm just wondering what kind of timeline you're thinking of for that, Chief.
I can give you the cliff notes on this, and if Captain Lehman wants to go in a little deeper, or you need a deeper answer, he can get you there. But when I first started with West Des Moines, I deemed that our records probably weren't that great. They needed scrubbed considerably. Even though we'd been through accreditation, we had some problems with our reporting system, and really it was more the way people had not been trained to how to enter it properly. So we took that as a challenge, and we basically started over. We picked a January 1st of 2018, I believe. That's right. Somebody shake their head in that room. Anyway, I'll be darned. I guessed right. We started completely fresh with our RMS and went from there. We scrubbed all our old data, went through it, made sure it was fine, and imported it in a way back into our system that we could import into any other RMS system and be real comfortable with our data, not only going forward, but our past data. So that is what we've been working on since about 2017 is when we started that project.
And Chief, I'll add to that. Our timeline is that we are budgeted for a replacement. Our project team right now is looking through all of the fingers that go into this RMS system, since we have so many things that are linked to it, from CAD interfaces to external reporting sides of it to our schedule and payroll, that we're taking each piece and kind of walking down that path, since we're not needing to get off of it right now, but we want to make sure that when we do move, that we have all of those ends tied up so that we don't have any wild cards that happen at the end. So we're taking our approach through it. I hope by the end of the next 6 months that our project team has a good pace on where we're going to be, but we have budget already set up for replacement. We're just trying to make sure we find the best shoe that fits us.
Okay. Thank you for that. Any more questions from Commission? Not hearing any. Could I get a motion to approve West Des Moines for accreditation?
To approve, Dirksen.
Steve Dirksen, thank you. Second?
Second, Butler.
Second, Chief Butler, thank you very much. Any further discussion on West Des Moines? Not hearing any. Any opposed? Not hearing any. Congratulations, West Des Moines Fire Department, Iowa. Fourth accreditation. Fantastic. Great report. Very few recommendations in the big scheme of things. And again, very few related to core competency, which is even better. So keep up the great work of continuous improvement. Thank you very much.
Thank you. We appreciate it.
Thank you.
All right, next up is Goodfellow Air Force Base. Hey, Tim, good to see you. Cannot hear you. And it says you're unmuted. You hear me now? Yeah, you're muted yourself now.
How's that?
Now I can hear you. Awesome.
What's going on?
Another day, another wonderful Monday. Chief Wilkins, can you hear us?
Are they on? I reached out to them, but they went to. Okay.
Yeah, they're on. They just.
And start video. Can you hear us? There we go.
Hey, Chief, how you doing?
I'm doing good. How are you doing, Carl?
Good. All right, we got all the players where they need to be. Chief Dongworth, it's all yours.
Thank you so much, Carl. Welcome, Goodfellow Fire Emergency Services, Texas, second accreditation. Great to see you here today for our July virtual accreditation hearing. So without further ado, I'm going to hand over to team leader Tim Sandstrom.
Hey, good afternoon, or actually good morning, Mr. Chairman and members of the commission. I'm here to present to you the report for Goodfellow Air Force Base Fire Emergency Services and their bid for accredited agency status. I will let Chief Wilkins introduce the other members that are in attendance here in a moment. My team for the site visit was Andy Olson, Jeff Helm, and Chris Simpson.
Goodfellow's primary mission is to train cryptological and intelligence students for all branches of the U.S. forces and several other countries such as England, Japan, Australia, just to name a few. Goodfellow is also the home of the DoD Fire Academy, which provides training for entry-level firefighters all the way to the fire chief level for the Department of Defense. It was very obvious to the peer team that Chief Wilkins and his staff have embraced the accreditation model into their daily operation, and the results were very apparent. They have implemented processes for program managers to maintain their programs, and the results are reviewed and discussed during weekly staff meetings and annual compliance reviews. This ensures that any issues that come up are identified and corrected in a timely manner. The team did review the response data and noted the response times for ERF to assemble on medical responses. The base does not provide an ambulance service and relies on the ambulance from San Angelo Fire Department, which significantly delayed their response time. The San Angelo Fire Department recently opened a new fire station near the base, and the ERF times have already improved. The team did make several strategic and specific recommendations, but the department was aware of most of the issues that led to our recommendations. The department has demonstrated a strong commitment to these recommendations, and in most cases are already taken steps to implement these recommendations, which I'll let Chief Wilkins highlight for you. With that, I'm going to turn it over to Chief Wilkins and the commander.
Mr. Chairman and members of the commission, welcome to Goodfellow Air Force Base out here in West Texas. My name is Chief Jeffrey Wilkins, and I'm surrounded by our dream team here. Beginning with, to my left, our commander and Fire Marshal Lieutenant Colonel Christopher Higgins, and to my right, Deputy Fire Chief Richard Alter, who was filling in as our accreditation manager today. Chris Mora, our accreditation manager, was feeling ill this morning and was unable to attend. In the back row, beginning to the left, is our Assistant Chief for Operations, Mr. Chief Alan Yates. Next to him is our Assistant Chief of Hazardous Materials and Safety, Mr. Alan Hebert. And next to him is our Assistant Chief of Training and Dispatch, Chief John Manera. And next to him is our firefighter, Christopher Hooks. I'd like to take a moment to let you know that not only the men and the women of the Goodfellow Fire Department, but our entire community would like to thank the commission and all those at CFAI behind the scenes that have established and maintained the fire service accreditation model of continuous improvement. Additionally, we would like to send our gratitude to the exceptional peer assessment team that you sent out our way. I can tell you that they conducted themselves in a very professional and courteous manner, and that they conducted a very thorough assessment. Their diverse backgrounds in the fire service and geographic locations from all across our great nation have provided us with a unique and refreshing look at the way we do business. The accreditation model today has made us a very well-run department, and we are one of the best departments in all of DoD. And that's important to us here at the home of the DoD Fire Academy. Mr. Chairman and members of the commission, I want you to know that we take the recommendations of your peer assessment team very seriously. For example, we have already developed a standard operating procedure for clean cab, the clean cab concept. We have budgeted for and are projected to procure the ultraviolet light air purification system kits for our apparatus. We've prepared a package and have submitted to lower the approval authority of our wildfire management plan down to our unit commander. This will enhance the approval process going forward. We have also met with our local emergency managers off base and spurred their first local emergency planning committee since the outbreak of COVID-19. Additionally, we've met several times with our law enforcement partners and have worked on our rescue task force, trying to enhance how we function together. And we have next month scheduled exercises, interagency exercises with law enforcement. And in the month of September, we will be conducting a base-wide active shooter exercise with multi-agencies. We welcome any questions that you may have for us. Before I do that, I would like to turn the mic over to my boss and our commander, Lieutenant Colonel Christopher Higgins, for his comments.
Thank you, Chief. Gentlemen, it's an honor and a pleasure to be with you all today. Thank you for your time and energy sitting with us. And thank you for the team that came out and inspected us a couple months back. In my time here, I've seen how the department here has used the self-assessment piece of the accreditation process to continually identify areas of strength and weaknesses and opportunities and threats on the base where we need to improve our business and where we can succeed at challenges around the base. The model that we have here that's provided by the accreditation process continually helps us as we justify fire department requirements and needs for equipment and materials to better help us defend and take care of the base. A few examples of that is ballistic gear that we've acquired for the firefighters to help support during active shooter scenarios and cyber threat response. A second set of PPE for all of our firefighters. Interoperable mobile portable radios that help us as we engage security forces and local police and fire department here in the local community. Some vehicle exhaust systems, and we are the first in the command and to have implemented the small UAS system to increase the incident command awareness situation and provide heightened understanding of what is going on scene. The department here at Goodfellow is consistently lauded for our efforts in taking care of the base and protecting the trainees and the permanent party here by the wing. And the pride that is found in this department is not just found among its members, but extends throughout the wing. This department consistently meets the needs of the installation and provides a safe working environment for all, founded on dignity and respect. And I have been honored, and it's been my absolute pleasure to have the chance to serve next to the men and women of this fire department.
So in conclusion,
Sorry, go ahead.
Sorry. You done, Chief Wilkins?
Yes,
sir. Commander, you good?
That's all I have, sir.
All right. So in conclusion, Mr. Chairman, the commission, the peer team and I recommend the Goodfellow Fire Emergency Services to be considered for accreditation. And I'll turn it over to you for questions.
Okay, thank you, Tim. I apologize for jumping in there. Time delays, it never seems to work perfectly, but that's okay. Great report. Very few recommendations. I know we have a question from Chief Dirksen, and then after him, Chief Keating. So, Steve, do you want to go ahead?
Sure, because I see that Chief Keating is next, so I'm going to try not to jump on his question. So I'll ask a different one than what I intended. Based on criterion 5C, Fire Investigations and Origin and Cause Program, it talks about that your investigators can get help from outside agencies. Where does that help come from when you get to that Class A and Class B incidents that are called out in the report?
Yeah, so being in an Air Force base, all our buildings are non-combustible. They have suppression systems, detection systems. So we see very few fires on base. We have a very extensive fire prevention program. So our fire inspectors don't get to investigate many fires. So we've entered into a partnership with the community of San Angelo Fire Department to where they can go out and participate in fire investigations downtown. It helps them to maintain their skills. And in return from that, should we have a fire of suspicious nature where we would need some help, part of that community partnership is that they would come and assist us as well.
Very good. Thank you.
Thanks, Chief Dirksen. Chief Keating.
My question actually surrounds Criterion 5 EMS. You partially answered this, and it would deal with active shooter situations. And you had indicated that quite a bit has been done since the peer team visit, far as connecting with your law enforcement partners and that, and setting up training. A little deeper into the recommendation was that additional training be provided regarding quick assessment on scene, hemorrhage control, different techniques that would be required at a active shooter or similar situation. Are you also working on improving those and enhancing that particular type of training?
Absolutely. A few years ago, we had a team that we paid to come in here. They gave our firefighters and a few of our law enforcement personnel training in the casualty care for active shooters. And we're pursuing additional training, and I'll defer that to our expert, Assistant Chief Alan Yates of Operations. He's been involved in trying to schedule some additional training for us.
Absolutely. Good afternoon. The class we brought in 2018 was a tactical combat casualty care, stemming from we work on a military installation. It seemed like the logical step at that point in time. But the problem with the TCCC is that it's designed for downrange. It's down for deployments in a combat environment. Our folks got a lot of good information from that, but it wasn't tailored to what we do in a civil environment. So what we're looking at is we're putting on for fiscal year 2022, next spring, is bringing in a company out of San Antonio, Texas, Regolith Medical, to do a tactical emergency casualty care, a TECC, which is a civilianized version of the TCCC. So and we're looking at doing that here, like I said, in the next fiscal cycle. So
thanks for that in-depth answer. That's really good that you're digging deeper into that very critical role. Thank you.
Thanks, Chief Keating. Chief Dirksen, you have another question, I think.
Yeah, Chief Keating didn't ask the one I thought he was going to ask. So, the report calls out, and it's something we similarly see in the military agencies all the time, is that your baseline often beats your benchmarks. And your report is no different, except in the ALS transport, and understanding that you receive your transport from San Angelo. How do you track their times being that you have an on-base dispatch center, and I imagine they come from their city or county dispatch center? How are you getting those times to make sure that you're capturing that ERF?
Yeah, I'll let our Assistant Chief of Dispatch explain that, but I can tell you this has been a long road to get to where we're at today. A lot of negotiation and discuss with the City of San Angelo Fire Chief Brian Dunn. He's been great for us, and he's been trying to do everything he can to try to help us to get our ALS response times down. And with the new fire station that just opened, last year was the first year that we were able to actually meet the DoD standard of getting ALS on scene within 12 minutes from the time that they were called. And so far, I can tell you this year, we're tracking up through the June. We've got that down to 9 minutes. So we're very confident that, once we get 5 years worth of data, that will take us out of the red and we'll be back in the green. But I'll let Chief Manera explain further on how he tracks our ALS response times.
Good afternoon to the commission. Good afternoon, Chief. Yes, we effectively track the times. Once we have to make a phone call for an ambulance to the city of San Angelo, we start tracking that time, and we track them to the time that they arrive on scene. One thing we've noticed in the past years, and we made an improvement in this process, is that we're tracking ambulances in general, where they're coming from, whether they're coming from Station 4 right off the base, or maybe from another outlying station that's a little bit further. What we're doing now is to quantify and look at our times. We're actually tracking where the ambulances are coming from which station. So we know effectively which ambulance, and which station is actually providing us the quickest time, so we can make sure that we're quantifying it, and we know that if we have an issue with the time, we know where we can identify. But it's very effective. We started it this year, and we're looking at it being a great benefit to us in reducing our total response times.
Just a follow-up question. Do you have to manually enter that then? Or is there some type of a transfer of information that comes over?
No, we have to manually transfer that information into our system.
Very good. Thanks for the answer. I appreciate it.
Yes, sir.
Any other questions from commission? I'm not seeing any in the chat here. And if not, I'd be looking for a motion to approve Goodfellow Fire Emergency Service.
Oh, excuse me.
Jesse, you? Thank you.
Jim Keating, second. Keating,
Thanks,
second.
thanks, Jim. Appreciate that. So we have a motion on the floor. Any further discussion on Goodfellow Air Force Base? Not hearing any. Any opposed? Congratulations, Goodfellow Fire Emergency Services, Goodfellow Air Force Base, Texas, second accreditation. Well done. Good report. Very few recommendations again. So obviously you've embodied the continuous improvement philosophy.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for being here today.
Thank you all. All right.
All right, next up is Murfreesboro, and they are having some audio technical difficulties, so hopefully we will get them on. We even tested them last week. It's Monday. You look good there, Brian Dean.
Thank you, sir. Feel good. Feel real good.
They're still connecting, so I can see it turning. Guessing the internet gods are not being kind today. Must be because the Dow dropped 900 points and Canada is saying they're going to open their borders now in August.
Did they say that?
Yeah, I just read it on the news, but it's only for vaccinated.
Okay. Huh? I wonder if that's a two-way deal or if it's just for people from the US to come to Canada.
Yeah, I don't know. I didn't get to read all. I just seen the headline.
No, I'll take a look later on for sure.
Yeah.
It looks like it's one way. America headed north.
Yeah, that's what I suspected. which will please the Canadians who want to travel south immensely.
Especially the one that's got a house in Nevada, right?
Well, it is what it is, right? So
I hear you.
I bet it's not as smoky down there.
All right, we're still waiting on Murfreesboro. I don't know if they can hear us. Oh, it looks like it finally showed itself. I got video. Chief Fawkes, can you hear us? I can see you all. Your mics are off, or you're not or you need to unmute.
Here we go.
A lot of echo.
Yes, sir. Can you hear me now?
Oh, perfectly. All right. All set? I think we have everybody. Chief Dongworth, go ahead.
Thanks, Carl. I appreciate that. So welcome, Murfreesboro Fire Rescue Department, Murfreesboro, Tennessee. First accreditation. Let's, without further ado, let's have team leader Brian Dean just kick off the introductions, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Good afternoon or good morning, commissioners. Again, not sure where everybody is at this time. My name is Brian Dean, and I had the great opportunity to be team leader for Murfreesboro Fire Rescue. I'm going to give you just a little bit of insight and observation to the agency, but first I really want to thank the team that came with. I still find it kind of interesting how four complete strangers can relate and ramp up and meet and join together as a team and do a great job with a really excellent agency in such really kind of a short time. But it was definitely a lot of fun, and I really wanted to give them a shout out. I know Chief Fawkes is on the call, and I'll have him introduce the rest of the folks because I can't really see who's there. I do want to recognize though Assistant Chief Kay Jernigan. I do not know if she is on the call. She's the accreditation manager, but she had a family medical emergency that kind of hit last night, and right now she was going to attempt to maybe chime in, but as I told her family first, we'd get through it. But I really also want to recognize her because this has been her project or process. I hate to use the term project, but for her, for the last 5 years has been her main focus. And so getting to this point, whether she's here in spirit or whether she's just kind of watching you via YouTube is just a neat thing to see this happen. Murfreesboro is in what most call Middle Tennessee. So when people think Middle Tennessee, they think about the Nashville area. And if you've been to Nashville over the last few years or even watched their growth, it's crazy. It's growing exponentially. And Murfreesboro being a suburb, even though they're a good distance from the center of Nashville, is definitely being impacted by this too, which has been kind of neat to watch how that when the agency developed their community risk assessment and standards of cover, they took into consideration this growth, and they've actually used a lot of the model to help manage the decisions for the now and for the future. But it's just a big growing area, and I'm sure that some within the department and some within the city would appreciate maybe turning the clock back a little bit when things were a little bit easier, but that's not going to happen. And I will say that based on what we observed on the ground, there's a great relationship with the city. There's a lot of progressive thinking, which again makes this model a perfect fit for Murfreesboro. The one other thing that we noticed and actually helped them notice a little bit on site, but I think they already knew it, is they've got a lot of talent. They've got a lot of talent that they're currently using, especially in the data component, but also some new talent that they've recognized throughout the week that we were there. And so we felt as a team that we were very comfortable that this process will continue on and not be hopefully the one-time thing. Hopefully it will embrace and continue to flourish throughout the organization. We did leave them 13 recommendations. Having spoken with the chiefs prior to this meeting a couple of weeks ago, and they'll be able to speak to it a little bit more specific if you have questions on them. But they have embraced them and they're running with them. And some, I believe, are already complete and some are in process. And some are going to have to wait till they have some of their newer technology installed and tested and working. For a new department coming into the accreditation process, they did exceptionally well. Yeah, they had a few hiccups. Yeah, they had to work hard, but it's not something that we haven't seen before with new agencies. We appreciated, we the team appreciated their candor, the fact that they dug in, and they worked hard to get to this point. So with that, based on the consensus of the team, the agency did meet all the core competencies and criteria, and we are recommending them for accreditation at this point. And I'll turn it over to Chief Folks from there.
Good afternoon, Commission on Fire Accreditation International. We, all the commission members, pleased to be on here with you today, presenting our department for accreditation. We have learned a tremendous amount through this entire process, and I really value the process primarily because of that. It's in a growing community. I think it's been difficult to the accreditation model has been difficult because we would write the things and then it's so dynamic here with the growth that we've had in our community. Some things would change in between the time we wrote it and time we're ready to reevaluate it before our peer team came in. So that's presented some challenges for us, but we really believe in the model. We've learned a tremendous amount about our community and continue to learn more about our community through the model. And we know that this is the best road forward for us to achieve accreditation. And we very excited to come before you and utilize this model to make our community better and most of all serve our citizens the absolute best way that we can. With me today up here on the panel, as Mr. Dean mentioned, I want to give very big kudos to Assistant Chief Kay Jernigan. She's our accreditation manager. She did a tremendous amount of work on this, along with the remainder of our team. And the remainder of the team is actually sitting in our council chambers. We wanted them to be able to attend this as well. That worked on this. All the individuals worked very, very hard. And as you can see them there, that we kind of pointed to them. This is our entire team that we have got assembled to do this. But with us today to answer questions for the commission is our mayor, Mayor Shane McFarland, our city manager, Mr. Craig Tyndall, Captain Josh Oliver, who is a captain on shift and a safety officer, a paramedic training officer, but he is also the president of Murfreesboro Firefighters Local 3035 for us, and our data analyst, Captain John Flint, who is our data analyst and put a lot of the data work together for this accreditation. That being said, again, this model has served so well for us to serve our community in the best format possible, and we are committed to this model. Our agency, not just the people in this room, but our entire agency is committed to this model. We believe it's going to help us serve our citizens better, and we look forward to continuing down this road. With that said, I'll turn it over to Mayor McFarland for a few brief comments, followed by our city manager, Craig Tyndall.
Now, I just want to thank y'all for the opportunity that we get to present to you. The team that came in a month or so ago, thank you for being part of Murfreesboro. But, I think going through the process, this just is I knew we had good people, but it just goes in it. I think it lets us know again how great that our team is that we have here in Murfreesboro. As a council, we've been committed to building new stations. We've been committed to any apparatus or equipment that the team needs, that we've wanted to be able to provide that. So, as far as Murfreesboro and its growth moving forward in the future, we're proud of our fire and rescue department. We're proud of the emergency services that they provide. And I know from an elected official standpoint, something that you don't have to worry about here in Murfreesboro. We're going to do everything we can, not only to fund our people, but fund our team with the resources they need.
I would echo the mayor's comments. We're very proud of our fire department, very proud of the team and all the team members that we have, the entire department and those who serve. We think that accreditation is a strong recommendation of all the work that they've put into building this department over the last several years. And it also, I think, recognizes the commitment that the city has, our city leadership, mayor and council, and our leadership in the administration that we have to making sure that our fire department stays a premier department in Tennessee, in the Southeast, and in the country as well.
With that questions from the commission or to address anything that needs to be addressed before the commission.
Thank you. Yep, I've appreciate that. Looks like we've got some echo challenges. Anyway, I see I have a question here from Chief Dirksen. Do you want to go ahead, Steve?
Sure. Welcome to the table, Murfreesboro. Congratulations on taking on this process and working through it. I want to commend you on your timetables and for setting your benchmarks in conjunction with standards that are established within the industry. I think that's commendable on a first-time agency. I think that's sometimes an agency might come in and set them a little higher to try and meet things, but you guys nailed it on the head right away. But my question goes into category 8 with the communications, and I understand that your EMS dispatches get transferred to a secondary PSAP. What measures do you have in place to ensure that the secondary PSAP times line up with your ERFs on your EMS calls?
Yes, sir. Well, the first thing that we have done when we started appraising this was actually before we started the accreditation process, and realized that this transfer was creating a significant delay in calls for service through our dispatch centers. Several things have been done in that meantime. First of all, the first thing that happened was the city hired our communications manager to manage our 911 center with internal to the police department, that was internal to the police department in the past. A lieutenant of the police department ran that communication center. So we hired someone specifically a 911 manager to run that center. He has been on board for, I think, 3 years or so now, and is doing a great job of getting a lot of those things done and accomplishing those things. But when we noticed that we were experiencing delays because of the transfer, the first thing we did is, and of course, it's unfortunate that we're currently in that situation, or that we've had to respond to that many calls, but our desire on EMS calls is to run truly life-threatening emergencies as far as a first responder agency, and to be able to triage those calls appropriately. With it being transferred to a secondary PSAP, when we knew that we were having those delays, we immediately started sending all apparatus to any call for emergency medical services to address that delay in calls for service. We now have in place to where our communications center will be providing the emergency medical dispatch function. So the caller will no longer be transferred once that's fully in effect. We're doing this through ProQA software. And once that is fully in effect, which we're anticipating is around the 1st of October, we will be handling all the EMD functions at our communication center, and the caller will no longer be getting transferred. And so that's kind of there. We anticipate with that to be able to kind of regulate the amount of calls for service we're answering within that, which was one of the suggestions, one of our recommendations to address the number of calls that we're answering and the call types. That will be done through that EMD integration as well in October. We've just put on a new radio communication center. We actually went live with a 700 megahertz communications system this past week. We're buying a new station alerting. We've got a quite antiquated station alerting software. All three of those things are going to be in place before the end of this year, which will greatly enhance our dispatch times and allow us to meet those ERFs.
Thank you for that answer. You answered all the follow-up questions I thought I was going to have. So great. Thanks.
Thanks, Chief Dirksen. Chief Keating, are you ready to go?
I am ready. Thank you. And congratulations on making the commitment to go forth and coming out with a really, really good, solid report with not that many things to follow up on. A pretty simplistic question here, but also realizing it's a major expense to an agency your size, and that is providing a second set of PPE to all of your operations staff. Do you have a plan working towards that? And in current time, what is the plan to assure that you're providing your people clean gear as best as possible if it is exposed to a fire or other element?
Yes, sir. We are in the planning stages of looking at a second set of turnout gear. As you mentioned, that's a huge financial commitment to have a second set of personal protective equipment. We've actually weighed around a couple of things there of buying gear that we're not utilizing on any call except for structural firefighting, buying gear that's more the rescue type wildland gear, as an alternative to buying a second set of turnout gear. It's much less expensive. It prevents the wear and tear on the turnout gear. We're kind of exploring that avenue, also exploring the potential of buying the second set. But the avenues that we have in place now are we do a gross decontamination on scene. We bag the gear and it goes back on top of the truck instead of in the cab compartment. And then over the last 5 years, we have placed washer extractors at all of our stations except for 2. Those 2 stations could not accommodate washer extractors because of the age of the station, and the sewer lines just could not handle the flow of water. And so one of those stations is currently being upgraded this year, and we'll receive a washer extractor as part of that upgrade. So we have those washer extractors. We have multiple sets of replacement gear that are in date at our logistics building. Our shift safety officers, which we have 2 of those on each shift, have access to that building, and they go to that station and get the appropriate size gear to replace for people as they're waiting for their turnout gear to be cleaned at their station.
Appreciate that answer. Sounds like you have a sound plan, and good luck trying to accomplish the second set all the way across the board, but it sounds like you've got a good plan intermediate. Thank you.
Any further questions from Commission? Okay, I had a couple, but they've been asked by my colleagues here. So can I get a motion to approve Murfreesboro for accreditation, please?
So moved, Lytle.
Thanks, Jesse. Appreciate that. And Bradley, I think I saw your lips move as a seconder. So
Yes, sir.
thank you. Any further discussion on Murfreesboro? Any opposed? Not hearing any. Thanks, and thanks again for a great report. As was said earlier, not too many recommendations here, certainly not too many based on core competency. Congratulations on your first CFAI accreditation. Thank you for being here today. Appreciate it.
Commission, we're honored to be accredited.
Chief folks, just as a side note before we sign off, I have your plaque. I'll be carrying it with me down there on Wednesday if you would like me to deliver that to you.
I'll see you over there, and we'll get together on Wednesday.
We'll get it all worked out.
Perfect. Thank you.
Good to see you.
All right, next up is Hutchinson Fire Department, Kansas. A lot of first times this time.
All right. Team and team leader are both in and connecting.
Okay. Chief Farnham, are you there?
I am.
Ah, you're alive. It's good to see you.
Everybody.
Awesome. Chief Beer, is you and your team ready?
We are, sir.
Awesome. All right, Chief Dongworth, it's all yours.
Thanks, Carl. Appreciate that. Thanks to Hutchinson Fire Department for joining us today. Hutchinson, Kansas, first accreditation. Without further ado, I'm going to hand over to team leader David Farnham to introduce the team. Thank you.
Good afternoon, Chairman Dongworth and the whole of the commission. My name is Dave Farnham again, and I'm a division chief with the Charlotte Fire Department, and served as a peer team leader for the Hutchinson Fire Department's first accreditation. And just to make a fine point on this, it's my really distinct pleasure to sit before you today and make the recommendation that the department receive accreditation status. And this was a consensus recommendation made by the team. Your team conducted a document review earlier in the year with the site visit occurring from May 2nd to 5th, 2021. Your team consisted of Assistant Chief Kurt Hall, Captain Mike Alcorn, and Management Analyst Javier Anderson. I'd like to thank each one of them for the effort they put forth both before and during the visit. I'd also like to thank everyone with the Hutchinson Fire Department who made our site visit as seamless as possible, particularly Fire Chief Steve Beer and Division Chief Doug Hannon, their accreditation manager. And thank them for their hospitality, which included a truly unique experience, a visit to the largest underground salt mine in the world. Within each agency seeking accreditation for the first time, we assume that there's a commitment to the process, revisions to longstanding practices, and the sheer volume of work created by document preparation demand that. But there are at times questions about the support outside the agency. There's no question about the level of support in Hutchinson. In both the introductory meeting and the exit briefing, each of the city's department heads attended, as did the city manager, who's with Chief Beer and his staff today. Further, the department's labor union president was and remains a member of the department's accreditation team. In addition to the team report in front of you, I want to bring specific attention to two areas, both of which are a credit to the efforts of this department and its members and help demonstrate their commitment to continuous improvement. First, Hutchinson experienced a series of active and potentially devastating wildfire seasons over the past few years, with areas in the department's largely unhydranted rural response areas being most affected. These areas have gone from scrub or managed farmland to developed neighborhoods relatively quickly. In response to the increased wildfire threat, the department has worked to educate homeowners and neighborhood associations and wildfire mitigation efforts, going so far as to create tailored wildfire risk assessments for each individual property owner. This community risk reduction effort will continue until all 7 high-risk subdivisions have been addressed. The second area I'd like to bring attention to are the efforts the department is undertaking with regard to call process and the turnout times. During the site visit, the peer team identified several process-related areas that would improve alarm handling and turnout time, as well as firefighter safety. Chief Beer and his staff are working both within the department and with the dispatch center to ensure that there is common understanding of the importance of rapid dispatch and turnout incidents, as well as the need for consistent, effective communication between fire department members and dispatchers while the fire department is operating and working incidents. As shown in the report before you, the peer team made a total of 18 recommendations following the document review and site visit, with several of these focusing on overlapping program areas. As a tangible example of the openness and understanding the department has towards the accreditation process, the chief and his staff have created a detailed document listing each recommendation and outlining the staff member responsible for addressing and implementing changes. And Chief Beer will speak to some of these efforts the department has made since the site visit in early May. Again, I'm pleased to recommend Hutchinson Fire Department for accredited agency status. Thank you, Chairman Donworth and other members of the commission.
I didn't know if we wanted to hear from Chief Beer.
Mr. Chairman and Commissioners, on behalf of HFD, we are humbled to appear before you today. As a past accreditation manager, I've seen the value of this ongoing process of continuous improvement and what it brings to an organization. This incredible ongoing journey and continuous improvement could not have been possible without the leadership of your CFAI peer leader team, Chief David Farnham, and the rest of his team. They represented CFAI in the most respectful and professional way. Their dedication to excellence was shown in every aspect of the numerous phone calls, emails, and on-site visits. Second, we cannot be here without the effort, dedication, and commitment of the City of Hutchinson city staff that work side by side with the Hutchinson Fire Department accreditation team. This team consisted of both management and labor working together as one. Members of our accreditation team, our accreditation manager, Division Chief Operations, Doug Hannon, Assistant Accreditation Manager, Division Chief of Training, Jesse Martin, our Fire Marshal, Tony Arpin, Captain and Union Local 179 President, Troy Mueller, Captain Travis Kirshner, Captain Breck Heller, Captain Rebecca Mendoza, Administrative Staff Aide, Becky Bevilacqua, and Firefighter Danny Chambers. With us also today is our City Manager, Jeff Cantrell. Our department has reviewed the findings and accepted all 18 of the recommendations for improvement. Our team has reviewed each one of these recommendations and has put a plan in place for each of these. A few of these include: first,
Our GIS department has assisted us in drilling down and assessing our response performance across our station response areas to increase our response reliability. Second, we've had many meetings with our dispatch center to address the pre-alert and call processing times. The dispatch center has now hired a quality assurance individual that evaluates all calls dispatched outside the 60-second benchmark. In addition, the dispatch director will provide a pre-alert solution to us by October of 2021. The 2017 to 19 tables published in the findings show significant gaps. However, I'm pleased to report that 2020 and the 2021 numbers have significantly improved and will continue to improve. On behalf of our team, we thank you for your time, your commitment to continuous improvement in the fire service, and helping the Hutchinson Fire Department work to be the best it can be. Thank you. At this time, I'll turn it over to our city manager, Jeff Cantrell, for a couple comments.
Good afternoon, Jeff Cantrell. I've had the pleasure of being with the city for a little over a year now, and I've been with 5 other agencies in Kansas over the last 27 years. Some equally as large as Hutch and some smaller. But one thing I noticed coming in the door here was that the community and the governing body gave full support and credit to the fire department and its members. It's not by accident that that happens. I have noticed stability in the decision-making of the governing body when it comes to the fire department and the resources they need to protect the community. So if anyone is wondering if this agency has the support of its governing body and its executive level staff, it does. And I'm here to demonstrate that to you today with any questions you might have. Thank you.
Thank you very much, and always great to see a member of the city manager in attendance at these as well. So great to see a representation from the administrative wing of the organization. Got a question right away from Brad Arnold.
I'm glad that y'all have pursued the accreditation process, and reading through the recommendations, the ones that I sort of focused on have to do with the personnel. And I know within the report, there's a discussion related to not being able to have consistent support for the cancer prevention and screening activity for the personnel. And so that related to the recommendation number 15. And so just wanted to get an idea specifically from the city manager in regard to what are the steps to be able to have that consistent annual physical examination for the personnel.
Actually take that one for you. I think I'm probably better off suited to answer that question, because that one actually was a joint decision with local 179 president back in 2018 to suspend our existing program at that time jointly. It was a reason because of there was some issues with a local doctor here, and we wanted to put in a better plan going forward. I can tell you right now, and in this year's budget, we are budgeted to have LifeScan, if you're familiar with them, out of Florida, to come in, and they're going to wrap up that whole part of the process with personnel physicals within our agency.
Thanks. Yes, I'm familiar with LifeScan. We've been using it here with our county for a few years now, and it has provided some life-saving discoveries for not just fire personnel, but we also deploy that for all of our personnel. Thanks. Good answer.
Anyone else with from the commission with questions? While you think about that, I'll just jump in on one of these here, if you don't mind. Recommendation number 6 is about the department using data to analyze incident demographics, socioeconomic, and programs to aid in program direction, as well as for identifying and targeting specific behaviors and audiences. This often means beyond that philosophy of using data, it also means making sure you have the infrastructure to capture data. I'm just wondering, is this something you're going to be able to implement easily, or do you need some more technology to help you with this?
Yeah, we switched to a new records management system in 2019, and so we have a complete year of data in 2020, and then obviously we'll have it in 2021. So we have the ability to pull any kind of records that we record anything through its DSS system. And then we can work with our GIS department to plot that stuff on a map. So in general, the fires, if we look where we're having a 2-block radius, where we're having a lot of heater fires in the wintertime, maybe we can do a presentation down in that area to try to educate the public in, some of these lower areas where the electrical system in the houses may be of a weaker standard.
Okay, thank you. So it sounds like you've got the technology and you've already started doing this, so that's great. Obviously, one of the basic concepts of continuous improvement is using data and making decisions based on some science, I guess. So it sounds like you are there. Steve Dirksen, Chief Dirksen, are you ready to go?
I am. Good afternoon. Welcome to the table. Glad to see you guys here. First time agency again. Like I said previously, it's good to see you set the standards for your benchmarks that meet national standards. You have several recommendations regarding your dispatch center and how to improve call processing and different things there. But I want to target recommendation 17 about the monitoring of a channel on when you have an active fire incident. And what kind of relationship do you have with your dispatch center, and what oversight do you maybe play in that to get them to do what you need them to do for your firefighter safety?
Yeah, they've had a turnover in staff down there. They have a new director that's been there less than 2 years, a new assistant director. And so since the peer team's been here, we've set up a monthly meeting with them, in which myself as the operations chief and their assistant director, who's kind of their operations, we'll sit down and we'll review any calls that are outside the benchmarks that we've set forward. And also they've moved into a new center since the team's been here. They went to the backup site while they were here. They have a really state-of-the-art facility now. They've brought on a quality control person to where they're actually doing some work. So they have a better system, and the ability to monitor channels is forthcoming. And we've made that known that that's an issue. And they've been very supportive throughout the whole process.
Is it a staffing number, within the dispatch center that prohibits them from monitoring your calls, or?
They are a little limited on staff. I would say that probably in the past, it's just been a difference in leadership, where the newer leadership is more willing to reach out to the agencies and work with the agencies on what's best for them. And so it's a great working relationship we have with them at this point.
Good. That's those relationships are important. Overall, at the end of the day, it's our firefighters' health and safety that we're worried about. So good work.
Any other questions from commission? I beg your pardon. Okay. In that case, can I ask for a motion to approve, please?
I move to approve this, Bradley.
Thanks, Bradley. Second?
Keating, second.
Thanks, Chief Keating. Any further discussion on Hutchinson? Not hearing any. Any opposed? Not hearing any. Congratulations, Hutchinson Fire Department, Kansas. First accreditation. Well done. Good report. And thank you for jumping on board to the continuous improvement model in the fire service. As we've always said, this is about serving our citizens better. And it really is as simple as that. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Steve Olson, good to see you.
Good afternoon.
It's good to know that Zoom works in Illinois.
Occasionally.
Maybe you can coach our friend and colleague, Ralph Henson, when you see him next.
He's already called me.
Yeah, feel bad for him.
All right, looks like spoken team is connecting right now.
All right.
Hey, Chief.
Good afternoon.
Chief Collins, you hear us all right?
I do. You hear me okay?
Yes, sir. I think we got everybody in place. Chief Dongworth, it's all yours.
Thank you so much, and welcome Spokane Valley Fire Department, Washington, third accreditation to our virtual July hearings. You're not your last, but by no means least. So with all that said, let's hand over to team leader Steve Olson to do the introductions.
Excuse me. Good afternoon, Mr. Chairman and Commissioners. It is my honor to present the Spokane Valley Fire Department, located in Washington State for your consideration. First, though, I want to recognize and thank the peer team, which is comprised of Lieutenant Mike Bell of the Beechwood Fire Department in Ohio, Chief John Banaski of the Clovis Fire Department in California, and Captain Corey Davidson of the Adams County Fire District in Colorado. Their professional dedication and expertise were critical throughout the review of the agency documents, the in-person site visit, and development of the report that you have in front of you today. I also want to thank Chief Collins, Accreditation Manager Pat Schaefer, who retired shortly after the site visit was completed, his replacement, Division Chief Jeff Bordwell, and the entire command staff of the department. Their passion for the organization, gracious hospitality, quick response to questions from the team, and readiness to address identified issues and flexibility served to make this a smooth site visit. The peer team has verified the agency is credible in all core competencies and validated the response data as accurate and reliable. The report before you contains 22 recommendations developed by the team from the verification and validation process that started with the initial review and carried through to the end of the site visit. We found a forward-leaning organization that is eager to improve and clearly demonstrated that it's willing to commit the resources to be successful. Of particular note is the percentage of emergent incidents versus non-emergent incidents that the team reviewed. As described in the report, some 48% of the annual responses were non-emergent. At the peer team's request, the agency completed a detailed analysis of this data slice to ensure this information is accurate. A 22-page report was developed that broke the data down by incident category and type and examined the interconnections between the dispatch center CAD, the agency RMS, and the data analysis software platforms that they all use. To their credit, Chief Kelly and Accreditation Manager Pat Schaefer and the IT staff met this challenge head on to understand the data process and identifying potential opportunities for improvement. This is a great example of accreditation process at work. Mr. Chairman, it is a consensus recommendation of the peer team that the accredited status be considered for Spokane Valley Fire Department. With that, I'll turn it over to the chief for more comments.
Thank you, Steve. Good afternoon, members of the commission. I'm Brian Collins, Fire Chief of Spokane Valley Fire Department here in Washington State. I'm honored to meet with you today and represent the more than 200 men and women of SVFD. I'd like to thank and recognize the peer assessment team led by Mr. Steve Olson. That team was professional, focused, and thorough in their assessment, left us with 22 recommendations for improvement. Our agency welcomes and appreciates these recommendations and has already begun work on 9 of the 22 listed in the report. Here at SVFD, we're committed to continuous improvement in all aspects of the agency and look forward to accomplishing these recommendations during the next accreditation cycle, should the commission approve us. With that, I'd like to introduce our team to the commission today. Today, I have our accreditation manager, Division Chief Jeff Bordwell, Deputy Chief of Operations, Sean Arrow, Deputy Chief of Administrative Services, Frank Soto Jr., and the chair of our SVFD Board of Fire Commissioners, Mr. Patrick Birch. And I'd quickly like to hand it over to Mr. Birch for a couple of comments, if you will.
Yes, thank Chief. I too would also like to give a big thank you to the peer assessment team for all their work here on site and for the recommendations that you've given the department. And I'd also like to acknowledge the great work and effort by Chief Schaefer prior to his retirement. And a real big thank you to Chief Bordwell for stepping into some pretty big shoes, but he's done a terrific job with the process. And so very appreciative of his efforts. As a Board of Fire Commissioners, we're very committed to the accreditation process, to the funding of the elements that need to be funded and the support of staff for all the work that they do to make this process as good and clean as possible. We're committed to the continuing effort to improve. It's a great thing as we speak with our citizens to tell them that we are an accredited agency. And that means that they are getting some of the best quality of services that they can get from the department, and that we're continuing to improve all the time. So again, I would like to thank the staff for all their efforts, and for Chief Collins' leadership on this effort as well. And thank you for the opportunity to address you today.
Thank you so much. So I'm assuming we're good to take questions from commission now.
Yes, sir.
Okay, let's go to Chief Keating first, please.
First, congratulations on a very well done report. Appears the peer team did a very excellent job. My question would deal with health and safety of staff, specifically the cancer prevention, in reference to gear storage in the apparatus bay areas and the full use of the vehicle exhaust extraction system. It indicated in the peer team report that maybe that wasn't being fully utilized. Could you follow up a little bit on that?
I can. Chief Soto, would you like to address the commission on that issue?
Yes, sir. So during the assessment, we did have a couple issues that we found out about. Currently, the SBD has two policies in place towards the reduction of cancer by means of turnout storage, eliminating personal items in turnout gear, and the use of the extractor system. We are currently addressing those recommendations through the education, encouragement, and enforcement of our policies. So we are addressing this most immediately.
Okay, glad to hear that, and hopefully you'll continue down that path and get full compliance with the folks. Thanks.
Okay.
Other questions from commissioners?
I've got one, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. Go ahead, Chief Dirksen.
Yes, in regards to recommendation 21, the recommendation for developing a long-term solution for your signal strength in certain areas. Do you know what your coverage rate is as a percentage in those areas, or if you're meeting standards, or is it anecdotal evidence? I guess I'm kind of interested in what the issue is there.
Yeah, Commissioner. So first of all, I think there are two pieces to that, or two areas where we've identified some challenges. One is in a rural area that's got mountains and valleys just outside. It's kind of on the edge of our jurisdiction. I think most of the information we have to date is anecdotal in terms of feedback from crews that have worked out in those areas. That's right on our border with our auto aid partners. So we are going to work with SHREC, which is the Spokane Regional Emergency Communications Center technology group, to make sure that coverage is adjusted and tested out there so that we understand what those deficiencies are and where they are. And then the second piece would be in certain buildings, concrete steel structures. It's a challenge, kind of inherent to the fire business, and getting good coverage inside some of our buildings. We currently are addressing that through SHREC, and SHREC Technology is retrofitting and in the process of retrofitting and designing policy for the center to make sure that all new structures and existing structures have the ability for clear and good communications within them.
Good. I'm glad you're looking at it and going more than just anecdotal evidence with your board person there. They'd love to make sure that you have safety for your firefighters, but they don't want to just spend money willy-nilly either. So I'm glad to see that you're looking into it.
Other questions from commission? I'm just going to jump in quickly on recommendation number 1. It seems like a relatively straightforward one to fix as well, which you may well have already done, where it talks about the head of the fire prevention division, and I may be using the wrong terminology here, reporting to an administrative chief before the reporting line moves to the fire chief, and it's recommending that I think that person for the fire prevention division report directly to the fire chief. Can you tell me a little bit about that one, if you don't mind, Chief?
Sure. So that's a project I've been working on for a number of years now. Understand that the fire marshal's position, our agency, is in a bargaining unit, so it's in a union IFF local. And as such, the reporting relationship directly to the fire chief is not the cleanest, bypassing the two confidential employees of the deputy chief position. So we are working with our labor group to understand the value of placing that position outside the bargaining unit. So there's a direct report and that the organizational structure maintains integrity, a direct report to the chief. And it looks like over the last couple bargaining cycles, we haven't had success in doing that. But I would say this bargaining cycle, the union is very understanding of our desire to do that, and kind of understands, I think better understands the reasons for doing it. And so I expect that to occur here in the very near future.
Okay, thank you. I just wanted a bit more context on that. Was great than perhaps I was able to ascertain from the report, so I appreciate that. Yeah, the bargaining unit piece becomes a challenging one sometimes, for sure. Any other questions from commissioners? Not seeing any. Can I ask for a motion to approve?
So moved, Lytle.
Thanks, Jesse. Second, please.
Second, Dirksen.
Thanks, Steve. Appreciate that. Any further discussion on Spokane Valley Fire Department? Third accreditation. Not hearing any. Any opposed? Not hearing any. Congratulations, Spokane Valley Fire Department, on your third accreditation. Well done. Solid report, and keep up the great work. And thank you for joining us today.
Thank you, and appreciate everything you do.
Thank you.
Thank you.